What if your entire podcast was a lie? Now, alternate tagline. The fight for the podcast will be the fight of his life.
That's even worse.
They're both
the
bad.
first one's. Yeah, I guess.
What
so.
if your entire life was a lie is almost something.
It's half of something, right? You're like, okay, and right, like you're like, I
mean, look, there are like three main posters, right? The first one is black and white headshot of Taylor Lautner.
It's literally his headshot.
Right.
They probably just pulled it from IMDb Pro.
Yes, and it just some out of focus like staircase in the background, and it says, "What if your entire life was a lie?" Abduction. That's almost something. I feel like if the poster was literally like a wanted poster with that tagline on it, that would work, right? That would sell the idea. The other poster is Taylor Lautner like sliding down the side of a building as glass is cracking, holding a gun, and that one is the fight for the truth will be the fight of his life. This just feels like a poster. I just remember walking by a subway station where this was up and just going like, yeah, I'm never going to see that. There is nothing in this poster compelling me to ever see this movie.
Oh, he's sliding. I've always wanted to see Taylor Lautner slide.
But just what the fuck is that telling you?
It was DOA because of that. It was like, yeah, what? Taylor Lautner's in an action movie. That's all they had to pitch us on, really. Even though this is a high concept movie. Look, whatever.
It is. I mean, it fucks up its concept, but it's ostensibly a high concept movie. And also, they were very confident that, Taylor Lautner is in an action movie was a money pitch.
Should I not be talking here?
No,
let me just say that
he talking.
Please.
People. One of the great things about pressing play on 2011's Abduction was getting teleported right back to that moment in time where Taylor Lautner was coming off of Twilight with more heat than the sun on him.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely plausible that Taylor Lautner and his abs were the next action star.
Right. Big, chesty man. He's ready to fight, right?
Yes.
That is the main thing to talk about on this episode, because certainly as a conclusion to the filmography of John Singleton, it is depressing and uninteresting. As a time capsule of this moment in Hollywood and this young man's career and sort of what we do to young stars and all this sort of shit, it's fascinating. But inherently, just what I watched has to be one of the most aggressively uncompelling movies we have ever watched for this podcast,
it's
right?
one. Your eyes just slide off the screen.
It's dog shit.
It's dog shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's if you come up with that sort of like, you come up with the Matrix, right? And you're like boring, like bad but watchable, respectable but boring. You know, you're like, this is right in the middle of just like nothing compelling happening.
Well, part of the problem, and I hate, to use a industry phrase, part of the problems are the third act problems.
Oh.
There's a big set piece at the end of this. Taylor Lautner, I'm just going to call his character by his actual Taylor Lautner is completely inactive in the big set piece at the end. He goes to a Pittsburgh Pirates game. He sits there, he has a conversation, and then at the end, people over his earpiece do everything, and he just stands there and watches it happen.
Well, it's almost the most astounding element of this movie was like in some recent episode, because I should mention, this is a Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, primarily. Directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they're abducted, baby. Look, there wasn't a good line to butcher, but I had that one in the chamber. This has been a mini-series on the films of John Singleton, and talk about fitting the thesis that I just laid out. A dude who comes out of the gate with the youngest, still today, Best Director nominee ever. Hit movie, made man, studio system. And then this is a completely ignoble end to his career, which we'll get into a little bit, and we'll get into the Taylor Lautner stuff. Because yes, this has been a miniseries on the films of Singleton called Pods in the Cast. Today we're closing that chapter because sadly this is the final film made before his untimely death. Gone far too soon.
Yep, he's not going to make another movie.
Well, let me double check. Let me see on IMDb Pro if he has anything.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry.
Development.
Abducted 2.
Oh.
Abducted again.
If I were his children and Abducted 2 was listed as future projects, I would sue IMDb.
Like, at what point does Hollywood's quest for IP become so desperate that they're like, we're circling Taylor Lautner for Abduction 2. I don't know. Do you guys want that? Like, is it time for a comeback?
I mean, there's a lore there. You know, we haven't really unpacked what's going on with his dad. It's very mysterious. We only see his lips. What was the big secret still to be revealed? Why could they not reveal who his parents were? Why did they make it seem like his mom might have been Marilyn Monroe? Still unanswered questions. A lot of things that we can unpack in Abducted 2.
I mean, it is wild that we are now in the 10th anniversary of this movie. You talk about just fucking time flattening, right? Like, this movie does not feel 10 years old in terms of cultural memory. When you go like, oh, right, wasn't there a time they tried to make Taylor Lautner an action star and they put him on a poster with a gun? You're like, right, that was like 3 years ago. But on the other hand, it's very representative of where Hollywood was in 2011. And I think it's very fascinating to think about this movie coming out the same year that Thor and Captain America come out.
Did you know that the Abduction Twitter account, @Abduction, still exists?
I love it.
And recently tweeting, like, wished Michael Nyqvist a happy birthday in 2018 after he had died. Yes.
R.I.P.
Tweeting clips. I'm your father, but I'll never be your dad. In Taylor Lautner has vanished from pop culture, but the Abduction. Anyway, I Googled Abduction, and that's what came up.
Taylor Lautner, let's make this clear. Taylor Lautner has not been in a film since 2016.
It's shocking.
His last on-screen appearance, period, was a British TV show in 2018. Taylor Lautner has not been on camera acting since before the last time the Abduction Twitter account posted something.
This speaks to, listen, he's bad in this film, okay? Let's get that out there.
It's a flop performance.
He's horrendous in this film. That said, the fact that he has, as you just outlined, has not been in a project in 3 years now, speaks to some other. There's got to be something else, right?
Look, we're gonna have to dig into this. We're gonna have to theorize. We're very excited that you're here because you're clearly champing at the bit to get into all of this. Our guest today, of course, is Jason Concepcion, long overdue on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This is the thing I want to say right off the bat. And I say this with full awareness of the fact that I am the one saying this. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying this in like an irate way. I'm just stating this as an objective sort of shock, largely out of the my sort of I don't know, passive acceptance of the way this fucked industry usually works. I am so surprised that as a white man, Taylor Lautner was not given a second chance. I'm not saying he should have been. I'm not saying he's owed that. And certainly there's a history of just like, I feel like usually when an actor is given one chance to be the star of a movie and it bombs and they're never seen from again, it is almost always an actor of color. There is a one-strike policy in Hollywood with actors of color in lead roles, and Taylor Lautner sort of like got that treatment, and you have to wonder if it was somewhat by his choice.
It's gotta be. I mean, according to Wikipedia, this movie tripled its initial budget. Almost $35 million budget, 90 million box office. That includes international. I mean,
you're stretching, but it's maybe wasn't the worst flop in the universe.
Probably,
I guess.
Yeah, right. Like it broke even or whatever.
And it feels right. Like Pittsburgh probably kicked in a couple $1 million in tax because they're like, as long as you say the name of the city 40 times,
right.
like we'll like
we'll let you shoot at a Pirates game. You can absolutely disrupt the game. Whatever you need to do for as long as you need to do it, you can do it.
But you think about like how many failed franchise guys get like multiple bites at the apple, you know? And get like a couple of movies like this at whatever budget level they're being tested for, right? Whether it's a $30 million Lionsgate thriller or like a $200 million CGI spectacle. Anytime a guy is kind of prematurely put front and center in a movie like this. And Lautner, arguably, it made sense to test him at this point, right?
Yeah.
It would seem that the demand was there, although I think they misidentified what his demand was and who his audience was. But, even when those movies flop, those guys usually get a second or third shot. And then those guys usually go like, okay, now I'll do a TV show. Now I'll do like a Sundance indie movie.
Right, yes.
You know, they just like kick around for a couple years.
With the explosion of streaming platforms and content, you telling me this guy can't be on Vikings or something?
Yes. I mean, and look, the Vikings guy is a perfect example. The Vikings guy stars in Warcraft. And that bombs, and then they're like, I don't know, here are like 8 more movies.
Yeah, be in this expensive HBO show, right? He's in that the robot show.
Right, you get to be the dad and Lean on Pete. Like, just show up and shit.
I am racking my brain for that guy's name right now, and I can't tell you it.
Fimmel.
Fimmel. Okay, there we go.
I was helping someone prep for a trivia match today by being like, remember Travis Fimmel is the star of Warcraft, and that's the only reason it's in my head. But yes, here is like Lautner's entire film career. Okay. He's in something called Shadow Fury as young Kismet in 2001. Then 2005, Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl in 3D,
Huge.
Cheaper by the Dozen 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude.
In between those, he's doing a few, like he was on a couple Bernie Mac shows,
Sure.
right? He did a little TV, but right. Then that's
My Wife and Kids.
left
yes.
and right. Cheaper, Shark Boy, amazing.
Okay, so then that's 2005, those 2 movies. He's endearing himself to a certain generation of audience goers, right? Then 2008, Twilight, huge step up. 2009, he gets Jack, Twilight New Moon, now he's a fucking matinee idol, right? Now he's a pinup. 2010, Valentine's Day. Now he is at least, in terms of press, dating Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That's part of his fucking identity. He's in that. They're a couple. They're getting papped out in the street. Eclipse comes out that same year. He's fucking killing it, right? Then the following year, 2011, Abduction, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1. The following year after that, 2012, Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2. 2013, Frat Boy Andy and Grown Ups 2, uncredited. 2 years later, Tracers, which is his second attempt at doing like an action movie, which I feel like is not even released to theaters.
It's a parkour. Yeah, I don't think.
But
I
essentially
don't know.
goes like
sort
straight
of
to
a red
box.
Yeah.
Right. I
mean,
think it mostly comes out in other countries. There's like no information on that.
It's a movie that premiered in Denmark and Malaysia. I don't
Exactly.
know. I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ridiculous Six is that same year where
he
has
is one of the Ridiculous Six.
That's the one where he has a big part, and it's like, okay, it
What
seems
number
like
is he?
I think he's
let's see.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Nice.
He's 4th.
Yeah,
bill.
he's sandwiched between Hurley from Lost and Rob Schneider.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to be there?
Oof,
I
wow.
believe he is the dumb one. That's sort of his character bit. A strong-necked man with a happy-go-lucky personality. He's Lil Pete.
Lil Pete.
And that's 2015. 2016, he is in like his fucking indie drama,
Run the Tide.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
which is about film focuses on a young man who learns that his former abusive, drug-addicted mother has been released from prison and is planning to fix her broken relationship with her 2 sons. And that is his final film performance. That is 5 years ago now, and the main thing he has done since then is he did 2 seasons of a British TV show called Cuckoo.
Yep.
One in 2014, one in 2018, because British TV takes its time. And he did 1 season of Scream Queens in 2016.
Yep. That's it.
Done. That's it. We covered the entirety
That's his
of
whole
his
career.
post-Twilight career. Yep.
You know, he's only 29.
That
Yeah.
was a shocking fact. That was the thing that shocked me.
That's what
As I
kind of
was
fucks with
watching
your
this
brain.
movie last night, I hit up the old Google machine and I was watching with my girlfriend. I said, "Guess how old Taylor Lautner is?" She's like, "I don't know, 35." I'm like, "No, 37." No, 29. That's a shocking number.
He is 19 in this movie, or at least he's 19 when it comes out. And as we covered, because we've been doing the Twilight movies on our Patreon, for the last 2 Breaking Dawns, Taylor Lautner received $25 million per movie. He made a combined $50 million on the last 2 films just in upfront salary. Not even mentioning his percentage of the gross, which was pretty high.
He, K-Stu, and Pat's they all got the same deal for those.
But once again, Lautner was 18 years old when he made it.
I know. I mean, it's great. He's 2 years younger than Kristen Stewart, who is not old in those movies. Like, she's like 20. And like, he really, especially in the first couple, you're like, oh, this kid's like a baby. And then, then he's big, and you're like, okay, he's like the big hunky guy. But like, to be in and out of superstardom, like people screaming for you in mass, to like whatever his life is now, which I assume is, I don't know, he has lots of money and does whatever he wants, and good for him. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, I might wish for it if I had a monkey's paw. It might be all right. Like, I want to be a movie star and I get to be Taylor Lautner. Maybe I take that. I don't know.
I just still am absolutely gobsmacked that he has not been in a single thing in 3 years.
That
somebody would put this guy in something.
Right. Let me roll the dice with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Once again, I just want to clarify, nothing in 3 years, and the one thing that makes it 3 years rather than 5 years is a show that only aired in England.
Right.
I hope he's okay.
I hope he's okay too. And my guess is he's fine.
I was going down the rabbit hole a little bit. He is dating a lady named Taylor again.
Oh boy.
But she's a registered nurse. He's dating someone outside the industry. And I went to her Instagram, and she has 141,000 followers.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. Just for dating him.
And her 5 most recent posts are sponsored.
I mean...
So she's just like a registered nurse in like Valencia, California, who also now is a spokesperson because she has so much clout from dating Taylor Lautner 10 years after he was a movie star.
I'm looking at his Instagram. Yeah, I don't know. He's hanging out with this lady, I guess.
Right, he just seems normal. He apparently still lives with his parents. He bought a bigger house for his family in Valencia, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I just like taking out the garbage.
Yeah, he seems to... He's always wearing a baseball cap that says family on it.
Interesting.
He loves his fucking family. And what's interesting is, in these cases where guys fucking disappear, right? You usually realize, like, oh, at some point they became disillusioned with the industry and they enrolled in law school. You know, there's like some career change where they got very committed to the rights of animals. Like they just made all this fucking money, and there's a point where they go, I care about something else more. I'm devoting my life to this cause or some weird hobby. I now own a this. I now run a this. And he just doesn't seem to have a thing like that that's at least publicly telegraphed.
Right. Maybe he got very, very into, I don't know, like storming the Capitol on January 6th.
Maybe. Just everyone scan the video and see if you see a black baseball cap that says family on it.
Right, yeah.
But I think the thing that baffled people the most, that baffled me, and I don't know if there was an answer on this, is there was literally a sequel 15 years later to the Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah.
And like where like the original Shark Boy and Lava Girl showed up, that Taylor Dooley, who played Lava Girl, was in it, and they recast Shark Boy.
That was the one where I feel like a lot of us raised our eyebrows and went like, is he okay? Because it just feels odd that he wouldn't do that.
It said he was like unavailable, and I'm like, really? Is he absolutely unavailable? Like, he seems available.
It would make sense if that came coupled with some sort of like message from him that was like, look, I enjoyed my time as an actor. It's just something I put past me. I have no interest in doing it
I didn't want
anymore.
to do it. Right. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
The framing of unavailable, and it's also like, I believe that's a pretty small role in the film.
Yeah,
it's mostly
like
about
a
these
cameo.
kids. It's a cameo to sort of tie together the Rodriguez universe. It's also like he's shooting it fucking Robert Rodriguez style in his backyard in front of green screens. It probably would have been a day in a costume to do something that's like a fun throwback to your childhood that would have meant a lot to your fans. All power to him. Make whatever decision you want. But that's the moment where I'm like, there has to be some larger reason.
There's got to be.
Yeah. And I don't buy that it is just that this movie stained him so much, because Hollywood, even if he had a bad stench to him at this point and the immediate aftermath of this, he has 2 giant Twilight movies come out after this. The Sandler movies were big hits. That's Sandler's like last big theatrical hit, and then Sandler's first big Netflix movie. And the other factor is, like, at this point, we're 10 years out, there's Twilight nostalgia. People would be ready to reclaim him.
I feel like one of the kind of mysteries about this is, a star at the level of Taylor in 2011 has an entire apparatus around him that keeps him working, that keeps him moving. Here's what you're doing next. Here's your next. And these people would all, be economically in some form or fashion dependent on his continuing income.
Right.
Has he switched teams? Did he fall out with his team? I feel like that's got to be part of it, because you don't just like abandon, you don't just like stop working to this level. And he had made, you mentioned his indie. That often bespeaks, here's the next stage, typical manager thing. Here's your next stage of your career where you show everybody that you also have this in your wheelhouse, right?
Right. And by the way, people try to make those indies and sometimes they don't work. This happens a lot. Like, you look at, like, Ryan Reynolds had his couple of years where it was like, oh, the big budget films flop. Now he's going to do like a Mississippi Grind and A Woman in Gold and whatever. And a lot of times people like take like 4 or 5 strikes until one of those movies actually kind of pops at a festival. It is odd to do one.
Right.
Look, here's the thing. I'm posting a picture in the chat of him and K-Stu in 2018, like some fashion show, and K-Stu's got like the short, hair.
Wow.
And it's a nice image. It's like, oh yeah, they're so like, they're obviously still friends.
Also, he looks good.
He looks great. He looks absolutely fantastic.
He looks a lot cooler than
he's got the spiked up hair.
He looks great.
He's got the beard. He looks great. On his Instagram,
I'd watch
when John
this guy
Singleton,
in a movie.
I would.
When John Singleton died, he posted 3 separate Instagrams, like, over the course of like a few days. Like, obviously upset about that. Like, I love you. This one hurts. I never stopped thinking about your smile. Like, very open, emotional. I don't know. I don't really get it.
Like, he still is active on Instagram. He's got 6.5 million followers.
If he just came out and was like, look, I have tens of millions of dollars and live a happy life, and I'm not particularly interested in doing anything that I don't want to do, I'd be like, well, that makes sense.
Well, like,
it's just weird that he hasn't. Yeah.
Yes, it's obviously weird because he's so young, right? But, like, example, that's what Cameron Diaz has done.
Yes.
And people are sort of like, oh, I wish he'd come back. But it also was kind of clearly communicated by both her and like her friends, where they're just like, yeah, Cameron's just kind of done. She's married. She's happy. She's got a lot of money. She doesn't feel the need to do this anymore.
She did the merry-go-round. It's just that his merry-go-round was so brief. And look, you said like this wasn't the right movie, but this isn't the right movie for anyone. No one. That's my question.
There's so
to
many
you
problems with this movie.
There's no one who makes this movie good, right? It's not like there's a different actor with this script that you're like, they'd be better. They might be more charming. He's not very charming in it. But,
structurally, let's start here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even get into the meat of this kid was abducted and is who he thinks are his parents or CIA agents until like 25 minutes into the movie. Like,
yes,
we got to get going. If I'm giving notes on this, like, why are we spending 15 minutes on his high school life and, shooting longing looks at his neighbor across the street? Let's get into the spy shit.
In a 105-minute movie, that's 10 minutes of credits. Like, it's basically a 90-minute movie.
You have to establish, though, that he's weird, Like, he's such a freak in high school. He's like the most handsome built fucking guy, and he's like a fucking he doesn't fit in with like the normal crowd.
His
like,
best friend makes fake IDs. He lives next door to the prettiest girl in school. I mean, also, like, as you say, Jason, it takes 25 minutes for this movie to actually get up on its feet, and then I feel about 20 minutes later they unfold everything and explain the entire situation to you, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? The whole point of this movie is this guy doesn't understand who he is, and you're just telling me? And now the rest of the movie is just kind of inert chase scenes? And you also realize that he is the MacGuffin? Like, he's kind of irrelevant.
He's got the codes or whatever. Right. He doesn't even know what he's got.
He's just a bargaining chip. Like, essentially, you're watching, you feel like, okay, is he born? Is he fucking Hannah? Is he some super kid built in a lab? Like, who are his parents? Yeah, but it's like he can kickbox because his dad trained him because he thought someday some people are going to chase you. He's not like a super soldier. And it just turns out like, yeah, we had to like bring you over to a different house because they thought your parents were going to get attacked because they were trying to expose some people.
My second note on this film, just in terms of structure, can we make our hero more active? He discovers that he isn't who he thinks he is completely by accident. It's this weird coincidence where he and his crush from across the street go on what a weird thing to do. Let's Google missing children. And that's how they find one of these bait websites where he then discovers that he resembles this missing child. That's a complete coincidence. And it's just a thing that happens to him.
A website that was created just to bait this one kid, not even just there's a larger conspiracy. That almost makes sense if you're like, this movie is about a weird plague of children who were displaced from their families or whatever,
right? And they're casting a net, like there was like a fucking Blackbriar, like Bourne, if you're doing Bourne, right? There was a whole program.
We're paying random Russians in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn a wage to watch this bait website 24 hours a day.
That's the other thing. You have to ask, has this bait website been up and running for 16 years? This guy in Flatbush is sitting behind a computer waiting for one hit, right? To remotely turn on his webcam. Or did they just launch this website? Is this new? In which case, what else have they been trying to find this fucking kid? The stakes are so high for them. Was this their only strategy?
The other thing is, then it's like, you're like, oh, they found him, and they're scared because he's actually like a super spy, right? And it's like, well, no, his dad's a super spy, and he like left some data with him.
He's just some kid.
That's what it is. Just get the dad. Like, do a movie about the dad. Like, it's one of those things where if I walked into a studio today, they wouldn't remember Abduction because no one remembers Abduction. Yeah. And I said, like, here's my pitch. The Face on the Milk Carton, one of my favorite books when I was a kid, meets The Bourne Identity. They would be like, holy shit! Oh my god!
Shit!
Don't leave! Like, like, oh my god!
Oh fuck! Right. And then you know what else you say? And you say, and it's that. But this is also a story about family. And then the room explodes.
Like, if I pitch them most of Abduction, like not the bullshit we're yelling about, but like the kid finds out, and then and his dad, and we'll see the dad at the end, but it's just as we can cast someone for the sequels. We'll have like a star there. They're like, yes, we have to do this right now. Like, and they would not even remember Abduction. I would get away with it again, and it would still be bad.
Bring, bring.
The phone. Click. Hello.
David, please temper your enthusiasm.
I'm trying to
be,
like Adam's Family or whatever.
You don't know who's on the other end of the phone. They might be freaked out by your over enthusiasm.
Hello. And now we were having this conversation. I've picked up the phone. I don't know who's on the other end.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Who's this?
It's Stretch Armstrong.
Stretch Armstrong, the novelty toy character who stretches?
Yes, I'm the theoretical version of Stretch Armstrong that exists in a movie played by Taylor Lautner.
So you're of course a famous toy and you stretch, but they tried to turn you into a film about a stretchy man.
What if a 16-year-old boy could stretch?
Taylor Lautner was going to play you for a while. Okay, well, nice to meet you, Stretch Armstrong.
Feels like a pretty rock-solid movie pitch, but for some reason I've been languishing here in development hell for the last decade. That's where I'm calling you from, development hell.
Yeah, you've gone unstretched, right? You're in development hell down there with sprockets, and I'm trying to think of other movies in development hell.
This is why I'm calling you, David, because I've gone unstretched for a very long time. Now, I still think I'm a viable franchise. I really think I'm what the kids want to see, and I'm probably worth investing like a $60, $70 million budget. But I've gone unstretched for so long, I'm worried about how to get my body back in shape. Because some of these protein powders can feel intimidating. David. No pain, no gain. And their formula's opaque, not just because they're a powder. But the truth is, deep down, as in cellular level deep, we all need protein, and it's about more than just muscles. It's also about being able to stretch. And David, I want to make this movie so badly. Can't you tell? I have charisma off the charts. Kids are going to love this movie.
Right. You're chewing this dialogue up and spitting it out. It's great. But let me help you out on the physical side.
Let me stretch. That would be my catchphrase. My catchphrase in the movie would be, let me stretch.
On the physical side, what you're going to need to try, in my opinion, is Ritual's essential protein.
Oh my God, sounds incredible. Tell me more.
Well, a team of scientists reimagined protein from the ground up and inside out, and the result is a delicious plant-based protein in 3 premium formulations for different life stages. We'll talk about that in a second. It's got all the nutrient needs. It's got high standards approach. It's got Ritual's commitment to traceability. Look, the Ritual, they do vitamins as well. They're very good. And they always give you an idea of the visible supply chain of what's going into your body, right? What's in their formulas, where the ingredients come from, why they're included, okay? Mm-hmm. They're giving you, nutrients that support your daily health. They support your bones and your brains and your muscles. Help you maintain muscle mass as you age. You're aging.
I am. I'm about to turn 17.
Okay, well, that's a good question, because I was going to ask, because they've got the 3 different life stages, 18 plus, pregnancy and postpartum, and 50 plus for the protein powder. So, you're almost ready for the 18 plus.
Let's say 18. Let's age me up another year. Why not? I've been in development for long enough.
Right. So, it's got 20 grams of pea protein. It's got a complete amino acid profile. It's made with essential choline that helps fill common dietary gaps, and it tastes good. It's got a vanilla flavor. They get this vanilla bean stuff right from Madagascar. So, that's cool. It's soy-free. It's gluten-free. It's got non-GMO ingredients. It's gonna help you bulk up a little bit.
But not too bulky, because I got to keep stretching.
It's always so interesting when very uncharismatic people call into the show.
Let me stretch.
Okay, why not shake up your Ritual to make something new, less scary?
Or David, why not stretch up your Ritual?
All right, Stretch. You be quiet now. Why not shake up your Ritual? To make trying something new less scary, Ritual offers a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Plus, our listeners get 10% off during your first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/blankcheck to add essential protein today. That's ritual.com/blankcheck. Now, say hello down there, Stretch, to Akira, to maybe to Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice sequels.
Goes Hawaiian? Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian. Yeah, he's down here. I got drinks with him last night.
Maybe to another Deadpool movie. Is that ever going to happen? I'm trying to think of other. Yeah.
Even if there's a third one, it's probably different than the one I've been hanging out with recently.
Right.
I just want to say, because I know some industry listens to your podcast, I just want to say very clearly, I'm here. I'm ready to be greenlit. $60 million opening weekend. At the very least, please let me stretch.
Let him stretch, folks. So was it weird to just finally say goodbye to Uncharted after so many years? People like that. It's all right, see you later, guys.
I don't think I'm ready to talk about it yet.
All right, goodbye, Stretch.
Yeah, here's the other fascinating thing is, look, we'll talk about why Singleton did this movie, but
Sure.
On one hand, it's depressing where you're this is sort of a paycheck thing. Has a star dimmed that much? Even at the time, not knowing he was going to die so soon after.
Yeah.
Right. This feels like kind of a generic movie, but you look at that premise and you're there's something there with him because his filmography is so defined by men and their relationship to their fathers or lack thereof.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
He's so obsessed with the father figure in a young man's life. And even you go to this opening where it's oh, here's a party, this teenager, his weird relationship with his intense father. You're this is shit that Singleton has knocked out of the park and all of it's inert.
Here's another problem. And this you could put this under our hero is completely inactive for most of this film. It's an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Lautner has one fight scene. Really. I mean, he beats a guy up with a golf club in his home, and then the guy says there's a bomb in the oven, and then he goes to check that there is indeed a bomb in the oven, and then they jump into the pool. But like Taylor Lautner doesn't actually get to do Taylor Lautner shit. Like he fights the one guy on the train, and that's kind of it.
And here's the thing. Not only is Taylor Lautner at this point most famous for being jacked, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing of like, New Moon comes out, it's fucking huge, everyone loves him shirtless, and then the Deadline story is like, Taylor Lautner offered $6 million. Or was it 8? It was, I think, $1 million per ab, or it was 750,000 per ab. There was some Deadline joke about how much he was worth per ab. Like, that was the whole story on him of like, his body has driven Hollywood crazy. And I think that first movie was Relativity, Ryan Kavanaugh trying to make Stretch Armstrong with Taylor Lautner.
Yes.
Stretch Armstrong, a weird 70s toy that was revived in the 90s. I was a fan of, but was never hugely popular as like a mythology, right? Was just, oh, what if you filled a goopy dude with corn syrup and you could stretch him? He just looked like some blonde bodybuilder, right?
Yeah, and then I had one, and then eventually you broke it.
It would
and
break.
It was weird, and weird stuff leaked out of it.
Yes.
Right.
I loved them. I had the Stretch Limo. I had the Fetch Armstrong. I was into it. I was arguably America's biggest Stretch Armstrong fan, and I felt no excitement when they announced that Taylor Lautner was playing Stretch Armstrong. I also just want to mention, across the 90s, Disney had the Stretch Armstrong rights for a while. At different points in time, they announced Tim Allen is going to be Stretch Armstrong. It's a family comedy. Then it was Danny DeVito is going to be Stretch Armstrong. We're casting against type. The joke is that he's short. Then it was...
That sounds good.
Jackie Chan is Stretch Armstrong. You're going to see him bend in ways that Jackie's never even bent before. Then at some point, Disney's like, this is fucking nothing. Get out of here, right? And then Relativity like buys it at a yard sale and goes, here's our pitch. What if Stretch Armstrong was hot and young? We're paying him $6 million. Everyone's losing their fucking mind about this. And then off of that deal, he starts getting all these other action movies lined up. Stretch Armstrong never comes out. It goes through so many different directors and writers. I think Nicholas Stoller was supposed to do it at one point.
Breck Eisner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just never seems to make any real progress. But he's like in talks for all these different things. And then Abduction becomes the one right off the runway. Lionsgate's like, we want this. We're going to have this come out before the last two Twilights. They go to Singleton, and we covered this a little bit in Four Brothers. But the year of Four Brothers is the same year as Hustle and Flow, premiering at Sundance. The two movies were shot at the same time. He had pitched Hustle and Flow to Paramount. They passed. Then Hustle and Flow blew up at Sundance, and Paramount makes the biggest Sundance deal up until that point in history for the movie. And the number was juiced because contingent with that deal was Paramount had to produce like 3 more movies of proteges of Singleton's, for which Singleton would get paid $1 million per movie. And it seemed like he had a first look deal at Paramount to both make his own stuff and to shepherd new young filmmakers. And nothing else came of that ever again. They just fucking sat on him for like 5 years. And he was really frustrated. Once the deal had expired, he takes pretty much the first thing that's offered to him, which is this movie. I think they sort of go like, this thing's a green light. It's going. We want this fast. You could start filming this in fucking 5 minutes if you wanted to.
Right.
Like, it's ready to go. And it dinged his career. And then also Paramount sued him and said that he had because he had sued Paramount for not living up to the contract, and Paramount countersued saying he breached the contract by taking Abduction, which he said, I only took Abduction once the deal was over after you'd sat on me. So this whole movie becomes a headache for fucking everybody.
Terrible.
But the weird origins of this script are, this is written by a dude named Sean Christensen.
That's right.
The lead singer of Stella Star.
Exactly.
Yep.
So he is a Pratt Institute, like, graphic design, visual artist. Then he starts this band on a lark that ends up being a big indie band. They're touring with big groups. And then right around the time that they end, he decides that he wants to write movies. And he writes several spec scripts, all of which immediately sell for like record amounts of money.
What a business.
Right. He's like a former indie rocker who's now selling $1 million spec scripts.
It's the monkey see, monkey do thing, right? Like they're just like, oh, someone bought one of your scripts. Well, we want one of yours. We want to be in the Sean Christensen business.
Right. So his first one is Sidney Hall, which he ends up directing 10 years later as
The Vanishing of Sidney Hall. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was his thing. That was his calling card movie. Then there's some movie called Enter Nowhere, which does end up later getting made with Scott Eastwood and Catherine Waterston. But he's like one of these guys where none of these movies are getting made, but they're getting sold for big money. And then he writes Abduction on spec, which at the time is just referred to as an Alfred Hitchcock-inspired thriller, and a sci-fi movie called The Karma Coalition, which goes for $1.5 million. And like Ridley Scott's buying one, Warner Brothers is buying one. He's all over the place. And then these movies just kind of sit on a shelf for like 6 years, right? Nothing's getting made. And then like Taylor Lautner's a thing. Lionsgate's making all these Euro thrillers. They want to make a Taylor Lautner with a gun movie. I think this just suddenly gets packaged very quickly together of, oh, that was a hot spec script 3 years ago. It stars a teenager. It's an action thriller. You could put him in that. Because it's not like there are a lot of 16-year-old thriller scripts lying around in Hollywood ready to go. Right? You have to just imagine it's like, oh, we want to make him the next movie star.
Give me a teen action movie. Right.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of them.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
So this just like immediately gets fast tracked, but they also bring on what's his name? Jeffrey Nachmanoff, who did that movie Traitor.
Oh, Traitor. Oh,
The
yeah,
Don
I remember
Cheadle
that
movie. He wrote and directed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a terrorism movie, right?
Correct.
It's like a bomber movie or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He's also one of the credited writers on The Tourist.
Yeah, great movie.
A phenomenal movie. And then
He
since
made the
then,
movie Replicas with Keanu.
Oh, wow.
He made movies that don't exist. He makes movies
that don't exist,
Right.
but they bring him on to rewrite it. And it feels like he rewrote the script almost entirely. You have to imagine that whatever fucking script Christensen wrote, years earlier that had heat around it, that was described as Hitchcockian, does not really resemble what this fucking
Not
thing
at all.
is. That, as you said, Jason, the Taylor Lautner team must have come in and overthought this thing to death because it just feels so flattened out.
I mean, it's clearly like one of the notes was Jason Bourne is big right now. Can we get some Jason Bourne elements? It'd be great if there was a flashback and he kind of remembers this traumatic thing that happens to him when he slides down a ramp a la Jason Bourne and then jumps to the ground. He should hurt his leg and then he should limp away. Like all these kind of things. Fight on a train.
I mean, Christensen after this gets so disillusioned with how his scripts were treated in Hollywood that he decides to make his own short film, which then wins the Oscar.
Wow.
Wrote, directed,
short
and
film.
starring him.
It's called Curfew.
Right. I'm not a huge fan. And
Fair enough.
then I was very surprised when it won that year. But then he turns that into a feature, which kind of doesn't exist.
Completely doesn't exist, would be my guess. Yes, Before I Disappear is the name of the feature.
And then he went back and directed Sidney Hall, his spec script that got him attention in the first place a decade plus earlier. And that also,
And that seems to be that.
disappears.
I mean, it's this collision of non-existent things. The thing about Taylor Lautner is, and I don't mean to be rude, he's very swole in the Twilight movies all of a sudden, but he's not doing any action in them. There's a werewolf that does action. They're like,
Yeah.
the action is happening on a computer. Like, he does not do any hand-to-hand combat, right?
No, he carries Bella or he starts to leap and then they call cut and he walks off screen and they replace him with the wolf.
I think you've put your finger on what is probably is certainly part of what has limited his career in terms of the action genre. I mean, just watching this movie, there's a fight scene, but like Taylor doesn't land any kicks. Like it's always like, here goes Taylor into the spin, and then they cut away, and then you see the guy flying across the room. There's a chase scene towards the end, at PNC Park, and that's the only time you kind of get that parkour kind of thing happening where it's like, where was this the whole movie? I get the feeling that maybe he's just not good at action, but he's swole.
But Jason, this is what is absurd. And this is the other reason Hollywood got so into the idea of making him an action star. Taylor Lautner, a black belt martial artist from the age of 8. He competed in national championships. The guy can fucking fight. You can watch videos of him as like a kid doing shit. And even, this is my background on my Zoom window right now, but when he went on SNL, his fucking opening monologue was him doing jump kicks and shit. Like, he can fight. Now, there is a difference between
reality,
actual competitive martial arts and on-screen fighting, because on-screen fighting is in many ways closer to dance than it is to martial arts, right? And even the best martial artists on film tend to understand that and understand that there's a dance-like element of the choreography, and what works well in combat does not necessarily play well on screen and vice versa. But in theory, one of the things they're paying for with this guy is he should be able to do his own stunts.
The thing is, it's beyond the action, which is not good.
Not good.
It's his entire physicality. He seems incredibly awkward with doing just human motion.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to rip a friend of the pod, Allison Wilmore. This is, she wrote a review of this movie years ago where she basically, she nailed it. Like, this is the first film I've seen where an actor, when an actor goes to put his hand thoughtfully on his chin, I'm afraid he might poke himself in the eye. Like, she's just like, I'm just like, like, you're like, I don't think this guy actually knows how to move part of his body. Go ahead, Jason.
I'd like to highlight 2 moments along those lines. The first is, so Taylor arrives at, this like secret safe house, and that's where he picks up the phone and other things. And he's like searching through a rucksack, right? And he's looking through it as if he were blind. Think of the way a blind person would look through something without looking down it, without opening it and looking down. He's shoved his hand into there as if it's a crevice or something. And he's just kind of feeling around, and he's staring at the ceiling. Who looks through a backpack that way? You would open it and look inside of it. Then there's another scene finally where Lily Collins is been attacked on the train, and we cut back to Taylor Lautner, Nathan Harper. He is in their cabin on the train, sitting in the chair what is he even doing? He's sitting there like, I can't even describe. He's kind of leaning back. He's got one arm like on the window, and he's just kind of in weird repose, doing nothing, sitting in a way that no one has ever sat, unless it's like for a Wrangler jeans ad. Like, why are you sitting like that?
This movie also has truly, and I know this is a favorite subject of yours, David, but truly one of the least convincing screen kisses I have ever seen.
Oh, I know. It's awful. And again, I feel like...
And it's supposed to be a moment of like, now they're alone, they've been on the run, and now they're just like ripping each other's clothes off.
Here is the heat. You ready for this chemistry, folks? It's going to blow you off the screen.
They ostensibly dated after this.
Really? Him and really? I didn't know that. I mean, here's the thing. It's that the Twilight. I keep going back to Twilight because it's the sort of optical illusion. I just watched all 5 of those movies for this podcast, and I'm like, well, but he kissed Kristen Stewart in Twilight, and it was hot, right? And then I'm like, wait, did they really? They didn't actually kiss much, like,
right?
Yeah. It's like very, because they're always like about to, and then she's like,
oh,
I can't.
Kiss.
They have the one time,
yeah.
And like, then you're like, okay, yeah, but he did action. You're like, well, no, and you're like, yeah, okay, but he like sat and moved and ran around. You're like, no, actually. Everyone in Twilight kind of just walks with their hands at their side slowly in and out of locations. Like, it is a lot of people being like, hello, like with their, and especially him with this like tree trunk body. Like, he probably barely knew how to like operate after he'd like put on 60 pounds of muscle or whatever the hell he did.
Well, can I throw out my big theory about his performance? And this sort of ties into everything we're sort of saying about like the pressure that was on him, the team surrounding him, how much everyone was trying to manage his career and what they thought he should turn into and everything. David, your background right now on Zoom is Taylor Lautner as Shark Boy. he is fun in that movie.
Yeah.
He is
Kitty.
a better action star in that film than he is in this movie. He's got some charisma on screen. He's got some coiled anger. He does better fighting in that CGI movie in which he is in a fucking ice cream land with a shark fin on his back than this one, right? And he's what? He's 12 in that movie? 11? 10?
When did it come out? He was born in 92. That movie came out in... He's like 13. He's like 12 or 13. Yeah,
13.
Yeah.
But he is more... That is a better audition tape for him as an action star than this film is, okay? Then
Yes.
Twilight puts him in this, like, emotional, sort of lovesick, heartthrob mode, which we've said in our Twilight commentaries. What he should have done was gotten himself a Sparks.
Yeah.
He should have done a fucking Nicholas Sparks movie.
Yeah.
He should have doubled down on his female audience. He should have done the Channing Tatum thing. He
Yep.
should have taken his time and slowly built it up. Showed he could do comedy, this and that. Like, Channing Tatum, it took him a while before guys were accepting him in action movies.
But this is the thing. He could have.
He
I
could have done
refuse
it.
to believe that he couldn't have post Abduction.
I think he could have.
Maybe not. Maybe not. People really had their knives out for Twilight. And, you know, Stewart and Pattinson, they went to ground. Like, they just went to Europe and started making art movies. They were like, fuck, yeah, whatever. I'm not doing Hollywood for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you know, there was so much, like, people really reviled the Twilight thing unfairly, in my opinion, by and large. You know, but like, so maybe he couldn't. I don't know.
Well, I also just think there was this thing of selling him as an action star before anyone had seen proof of concept.
Yeah.
And the idea that it was like he had lined up 5 movies with multi-million-dollar paydays before one of them had successfully come out, and then all of them fall by the wayside. But I do think there was just this thing of everyone knew they wanted him to be an A-list action star, but no one had identified what his movie star persona was. And so it feels like both he, his internal pressure, and the team around him and everyone was just fucking flattening him out.
Yeah.
Was just sort of going like, just be like normal. Be like John Normal Guy.
Yeah.
And you watch this performance, and it does feel like everything he's doing is so overthought, every motion.
Right. Like, there's someone in his ear being like, normal,
Yeah.
remember,
Yes.
normal. And he's like, yes, no feelings, no thoughts.
Right, where you're just like, even to the degree where you're like, this guy should be getting more emotional about these things that he's finding out. His
Yeah.
parents just died in front of him. In other scenes, you're like, he should be more aggressive. And everything is just kind of like flattened.
There's no edge at all. To your point, he doesn't, and then this feels like a very conscious choice. He doesn't really kill anyone in this movie. This is an action
No.
movie, and
It's
they
a pretty
take
bloodless, yeah.
they really take care to. I would theorize to protect something of that kind of like Twilight goody image. When he
Yeah.
fights the guy on the train, he kicks out a window and then hurls the guy out the window of a moving train. But then they're very careful. Singleton is very careful to show that the guy absolutely survives being thrown out of the train.
Pretty unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, right, it would be better if he was like, again, if this was more of a straight up Bourne thing and he was like snapping someone's neck 30 minutes in, but that's not what they want to do. They're too like, no.
Yeah, but also, I feel like you could have your cake and eat it too, where it's like, this is some repressed side of his personality. And it's coming out, and he's like scared by his
it's
own
a switch
violence.
flip. Yeah, totally.
I understand that you want him to be in Sweetie Pie mode, but that also gets into like the contradictory nature of what they're asking him to do in this film, and how kind of irrelevant his character largely is.
To your point about irrelevancy, so this movie is basically an extended chase scene, and then at the end, after the reveal that one of the top CIA agents who has been working on this case is actually a bad guy, his name is on this knock list that Taylor Nathan has been carrying around, and there's been a murder at PNC Park, and Nathan has been running from international assassins, and the CIA shows up, and they're like, okay, you can go. Bye.
You're right. It's
done.
a bit of a damp.
It's like, oh, God.
Thanks
It's
for
like-
solving that mystery.
Yeah, right, like-
and you, sir, are under arrest. Like, you know, like.
Well, I'm just like, I'm looking at the notes that the great JJ Birch assembled for us for this episode, and he has these quotes here where was it? Where everyone's just so fucking confident about the fact that this thing's going to be a franchise.
Joe Drake, who ran Lionsgate, is like, this is our Bourne. The story is set up. There's a great character. There's going to be lots of places we're going to take it. Singleton's like, we're going to do 2 or 3 movies. Like those guys.
David, I have to correct you. Because the specific wording here is so much worse than what you just said.
It is. It's a bummer.
Singleton's verbatim quote is, I think we're going to get at least 2 or 3 movies out of this.
Yeah. But you can read that.
Bare
like
minimum,
someone
we're
is
gonna
like
milk 3 out of this
squeezing an orange and they're like, no, there's definitely
there's
at
another
least
glass.
3 cups of it. Yeah, the funny thing is, Nick and JJ point this out. It's like, this is like a rough time for Lionsgate. They got a lot of crap clogging up theaters. Movies like Conan, the Conan remake, and this. And it's like, shit, like Saw had been their money franchise and their Saw is finally gone.
Right.
And
Warrior, which is
Warrior's a good
quietly
movie.
one of the best American films of the last 10 years, but they totally mishandled, bombed, and fucked up its Oscar campaign.
And they were so screwed, and they were pinning their hopes on this, among other things. And then The Hunger Games comes along like right after and totally turns the studio around. And that's like what they found a real young adult franchise that people actually cared about and like latched onto that versus like trying to kind of invent one out of whole cloth, like out of nothing here. And like who gives a shit? Like you won't what's his fucking name? Nathan Price. Yeah.
But like it's committing the 2 cardinal sins of franchise building, which is there's nothing interesting in the mythology of this movie, and your lead character is completely unwritten. Like, we don't want to follow this guy doing anything, and there's nothing going on in the world at large that is compelling.
But like, you load this movie up, it's a Singleton, and you always have that hope in the back of your mind when we're doing this podcast, especially, and we know a bomb is coming, but it's like, this has been an interesting career, an interesting director.
You always want something to be a happy feat too. You want to go like, wait, this is secretly a masterpiece. No one talked about this.
Right.
Right.
And then like, all right, Taylor Lautner, okay, Lily Collins. I like Lily Collins. Alfred Molina, Jason Isaacs, Sigourney Weaver, Maria Bello, Michael Nyqvist. You're like, oh shit, like everyone in this, and probably because it's Singleton, they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do a John Singleton movie. Like, he still has enough, juice.
And John Singleton, you're like, the guy's gonna get on base, right? I know this thing's not a home run.
I can't say how I know this, but
oh my God.
As I understand it, Michael Nyqvist, this is his first American movie, and
so it's like right after the Dragon Tattoo movies are
correct.
Are a thing.
And as I understand it, Taylor and his manager were on a plane and they were watching Dragon Tattoo, and Taylor said, I want that guy in my movie. And that is how Michael Nyqvist came to book his first American role.
So Taylor also made his career?
I mean, honestly, good for Taylor Lautner.
But that is also fascinating to me, right? That we talk about, and I understand they seem to be different people, right? They seem to have different objectives in their career. But Pattinson and Stewart very quickly start going like, gotta find the filmmaker.
Right.
I find the filmmakers I want to work with. I find the collaborators I want to work with. I trust them. The guy does seem to have some taste if he's watching Michael Nyqvist on a plane and going like, that should be the villain. Right? I mean, it seems like he's watching shit. I know that's not a deep cut, but like, he's watching foreign movies and identifying actors and telling studios who to cast.
Yeah, it's right. I guess it's in one way, it's kind of hacked to see Michael Nyqvist and be like, yeah, that guy should be like a Euro villain. But he kicked ass at that. He should still be doing it. I mean, it's sad that he died. Like, he should still be just churning out, like, because Michael Nyqvist just like puts a little salt on it. It's just like a little bit better than it needs to be, him playing like this sort of vaguely Russian guy who's like, bad. Considering
this is his first American film, and then he dies in 2017?
He died in 2017, yeah.
So in 6 years, he did a Mission Impossible and John Wick. That's
pretty good.
Yeah. From this, inauspicious start in American villain roles, he got two all-timers on the board.
and he did a couple, he did a bunch of other movies, and he's in A Hidden Life. That's a great scene, like that he did. That he's in that Gerard Butler, Gary Oldman submarine
Hunter
movie
Killer
that I haven't seen, but I keep being like, there's got to be something with that one, right? I mean, Gerard Butler, Gary Oldman, submarines.
I think Mike Ryan stands for that one pretty hard.
Yeah, right. Like, come on, there's got to be, that has to be a little fun. Common and Linda Cardellini are in it. Like,
Oh.
come on, how bad could it be, right? It's directed by someone. He's directed by like an NBA 2K, Donovan Marsh, like just a name where you're like, that's just a computer created that name. That's nothing.
I've told the Michael Nyqvist John Wick story on here before, right?
Yeah, just tell it again.
I'd love to
he
hear
got
it.
hurt. Yeah,
It's a quick story, but a lot of the crew from the John Wick movies worked on the Tick, and especially a lot of the hair and makeup team. There's one scene where Michael Nyqvist is talking to his grunts or whatever, and someone like pushes him up against a wall, and they split his head open. The placement was just really fucking unlucky, and this like thug slams him up against a wall, and the back of his skull goes directly against like the corner of a pillar, and cracks the skull open. It starts bleeding profusely, passes out. People were like, was there supposed to be a blood rig for this scene? It takes them a moment to realize. Right. So then, like, he's fucked. Thankfully, he doesn't have serious brain injuries, but they got stitched up. His whole skull is, like, fucked, right? They have to, like, shave his head and full stitches down the front of his skull. And the hair team is, like, freaking out because they're like, we've shot half the movie. The whole thing takes place in this compressed timetable, right? Like, the John Wick movies are almost happening in real time. We've shot all these scenes all over the chronology of the film. And he's got this look, and now we've shaved his head, and he has this scar, and we can't put a wig over it. Not only is the wig gonna look fake, but we can't put it over it because the scar's too sensitive. And they were like freaking out in the makeup chair, and Michael Nyqvist just goes, I wear a hat. And he takes a fedora off the table, and he puts it on, and he wears it for the rest of the movie. And if you watch that film, sometimes he has a fedora and sometimes he doesn't. That's how you can tell which scenes were shot before and after he got a skull crack. But he was just like, I wear a hat. He's fine. Don't care. And they went, but you weren't wearing the scene. He put the hat on at some other point.
The guy's got a hat. The
guy's got that hat sometimes.
Puts up emphasis sometimes.
Yeah, I just think that's a great story. Like, he's just no nonsense. Like, I put the hat on sometimes.
I love that.
But here's the thing about the great Michael Nyqvist and like the other 6 good actors who are in this movie.
Yes.
None of them are good. It's not their fault. Like, but like when they're cutting to Molina or Nyqvist or Sigourney or whatever, you're like, okay, well, all right, good. Now I'm going to get 5 minutes of something, right? But they don't have anything to do either. None of one has like
Sigourney's big move is to use Mylar balloons, graduation balloons, wedding balloons, in order to shield Nathan Harper from being seen. That's what they gave her to do in her big like introduction reveal. I'm not your therapist. I'm actually a CIA agent. I've got 12 balloons. Stand behind them.
And then her quote unquote quippy action movie line after that is she releases these balloons so they cover up the security camera in the hospital. And then I believe she says, I hate balloons. Why? They just did you a favor.
they seem fine.
What's your problem? If you hate them that much, you don't have to use them for a fucking disguise. Get a flower arrangement.
There's a scene early, her big action scene, I got, is when she's driving them and she's like, forget the girl, jump. And she's saying like, there's going to be 1 second. I'm going to, drift this car around a corner over a bridge. There's going to be a ridge that you're going to jump over. And I'm like, okay. And then he jumps onto what just looks like grass, like a slight slope, like nothing, I was expecting him to jump like into the air, maybe do like a roll or something. And like that is Abduction. That's the whole movie is just, it's kind of like a movie that watched The Bourne Identity and is like, yeah, we're doing that, but then they don't actually know how to do that.
Ring, ring, ring.
Ah, the phone. Click. Hello.
Hi, I quit.
You quit what? And who are you?
Boing, it's Checky. Remember me?
Oh, hey, Checky. It's our mascot, Checky. Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might want to remind the audience, because when's the last time you put me on the show? They might not remember.
Well, there's a bunch of things I want to say here. One, Checky.
Boing, boing.
You're only ever on the show when you call in to do ads. Okay.
Yeah, like that's my fault. I've offered my services top to bottom every episode, and I wait by the phone, and you never call.
Look, you're probably emailing Griffin, which I just want to advise you. That's a mistake. That guy doesn't check his email.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. That's on you.
Yeah, that's your problem there. But, thanks for calling in. It's been a while since I heard from you. How are you doing? How was your pandemic? I hope you're feeling okay.
Oh, cool. I'll speed run through these. How was my pandemic? Bad. What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I just mean you doing all right.
Of course it was bad.
No,
I'm not. I've been out of work, and guess what? I'm not going to sit around and wait for you guys to call anymore. I'm boinging out of here. I quit. You got to find yourself a new mascot.
All right.
Good luck with that. In this economy, where would you even start? Where would you even begin to try to find a new superstar employee?
All right, well, Griff, I mean, we're going to have to fire up Indeed, in my opinion. It's the job site that makes hiring incredibly simple.
Yeah. No, I think actually a very easy solve. We'll just hire Indeed. It's going to make it very easy.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you can do all your hiring in one place, even interviewing, okay? They've got these hiring tools. You can cut through the noise really fast. They've got this instant match service that gets you a list of quality candidates whose resumes are on Indeed the moment
it's take so
you
long,
post.
right?
No.
Oh, no.
You just post a sponsored job, and the resumes are right on there. They give you a short list of candidates, okay?
Oh, God,
the moment,
I was hoping it was a long list.
The moment you sponsor a job, they get those quality candidates right to you. Then you can invite them to apply.
Nothing you can do. Oh, God, there is a way to act immediately. Oh, no.
Yeah, and they make finding quality candidates even faster with 135 assessments that make you sure you find the applicants with the right skills.
God, I was hoping they were bad candidates and like 120 assessments maximum. Oh, no.
Best of all, you only pay for applicants who meet your must-have qualifications, okay? So for us, it would be like charisma, a certain, kind of je ne sais quoi, I assume. Griff, you agree with me? Yeah, probably. Bounciness. So according to Talent List...
Oh, God,
Chill out, Checky.
Oh, no.
According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than any other job site. All of them combined, in fact. 3 million businesses worldwide use Indeed to hire great talent fast. So, Griff, we're going to get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade our job post.
Yeah, I think we can get someone hired before this episode is done, right?
Yeah, definitely. Easy, like that. So we're gonna get the $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade our job post at Indeed.com/check. You can get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/check. That goes for everyone listening. Indeed.com/check. The offer is valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Get started right now. $75 sponsored job credit. Indeed.com/check.
Boys, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Will you be accepting all applicants for this position?
Absolutely. We're very, we don't discriminate here.
So former employees are in play as well?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Just,
okay, we'll be
Indeed.com.
talking very soon.
Yes,
okay,
that sounds good. Okay, bye, Jackie.
Boing, boing, boing.
But here's, what should the main juice of this movie be, right? I'd say, A, this kid figuring out who the fuck he is,
right.
What his history is, who his real parents are. Shit that, I imagine if Singleton had signed on to this and had actually been given, space and a fucking year to redevelop the script to his tastes, he probably would have honed in on thematically, right? You would have had anything in the first act of the movie about this fucking kid's relationship to his father and some sense of longing, and anything that makes it more of a rug pull when he finds out his parents aren't real, and more of a longing actively throughout the rest of the movie trying to figure out where he does come from. But also, the juice of this movie should be, secondarily, getting all these fucking pro actors, right? People who just fucking are in the pocket, know how to show up for something like this, and just deliver the goods. Getting tossed around from one to another with all of them saying, no, I'm the one you should trust.
Yeah.
It should be that paranoia of...
Who's telling you the truth?
Man, there's so many reliable veteran actors here that I don't know who to believe.
Right. Melina seems chill, but Sigourney's a legend. Like, what do I do?
And I feel like that Sigourney car scene is the only one that comes close to feeling like, Like, when she's giving her, like, there are only 4 of us. Who's the name of the guy on the phone? That's Alfred Molina. Okay, he was my boss. He might not be anymore. She just is able to toss that off with enough of a quiet Sigourney confidence that I was like, this is the one time in the movie where I'm actually kind of interested in whether or not I can trust the adult figure in his life. Whereas every time Molina's on screen, I go, I don't know, whatever.
I mean, they blow it off the bat with the reveal. So Kevin and Mara, played by Jason Isaacs and Maria Bello, have been raising Nathan for 16 years secretly. He is not their son. He comes to realize that he is not their son, and he confronts sort of Mara about it, and she doesn't fight it at all. She's been keeping this secret for 16 years, and she's just like, yep, that's true. You're not our son. What? Like, can we?
It's so bizarre.
I'm also not your therapist.
Right.
Who are you?
Yeah.
But also, it's such a deflation to, like, try not to just criticize this movie for what I think it should have been instead, right? But let's just say, if there is the movie in which suddenly he realizes he can't trust anybody,
right,
that everybody's in on it, and the reveal that comes in the last 10 minutes is, actually, all these people cared about you a lot. You were not abducted. They were not villainous. These were all friends of your parents. They were in on it together to protect you and protect them, right? That's something. But to very quickly just have Maria Bello go, yup, you're right. Yes, you are part of a weird conspiracy. I love you very much. I do genuinely love you as a mother. We are friends with your parents. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a bullet really quickly. I'm dead. Just feels like, well, you're not getting the ultimate payoff of his parents were really his parents. They did raise him. They did care for him. It wasn't an act. And you're also not getting the paranoia tension of, oh my God, my parents, who are they?
Yes.
Did they kidnap me? Do I hate them? Like, the second the parents become a threat, they're immediately defanged and then killed, and then he's grieving them.
It's in 5 minutes.
In Act 2, when he refers to them, he calls them Kevin and Mara. He calls them by their name. He was raised by these two. Yes. He loved them as his parents. And within less than 24 hours, he's already I'm calling these people by their first names. They are not my parents.
He drops them.
That's a fucking movie. Like, I don't need this big chase movie. You can make a thriller that is a dude realizes he's the kidnapped kid and spends a movie trying to figure out whether or not his adoptive parents are criminals, right? That's probably what this fucking script was in the first place. If it's described as Hitchcockian and someone had any interest in it off a spec script.
Yeah, that's the structure of the face on the milk carton. Act 1 is her being like, why is my face on this milk carton? Are my parents bad?
Right.
And then Act 2 is the dam finally breaks, but there's a lot of tension. And the parents are like, no, this is the situation. You were dropped out to spoil the face on the milk carton, but you were dropped off at our front door by our real daughter.
Right.
But and she was your mother. And then Act 3 reveals that's not true either, but the parents didn't know it. And like, it's perfect. It's got 2 Hitchcockian like about turns. Whereas this is like, you're actually the son of a super spy. And then the final twist is like, and also he had some data, like he had a list. Right. That's the second twist. Who cares?
But also, as you said, it's truly within the span of 5 minutes that he confronts his mom about it.
Yeah.
She owns up to it with radical transparency and emotional honesty, and then gets murdered.
You know, it's a movie that does the thing that you're both talking about really well. It's not necessarily a good movie, but I think it does this kind of thing pretty well. Is Running on Empty. Did you see Running on Empty?
Oh,
that's the kind of
movie.
I am not who I thought I was. There's this long backstory that I had no idea about. I'm just learning about it now. It explains a lot of things. Pieces fall into place over the course of the movie, and it seems like maybe the original script was something like the River Phoenix vehicle Running on Empty, where he. But apparently not. Apparently they decided to go a different way.
It's just all the wrong decisions. I mean, it's also just like, even just in terms of, I think, how poorly this movie sets up the central romance, right? of just like, okay, so you start cold open at a party.
Right.
Here's John Singleton. He's done some great fucking teenager party scenes, right? Like the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking about the fucking Doughboy backyard party in Boys in the Hood and how there's a sense of actual like life and vibrancy there. I feel like he gets the social energy of a party, the dynamics of it. Feels like there's a density to it. This is just randomly cutting to different background actors, just kind of glibly like giving a thumbs up and holding a red Solo cup, right? Like it just feels so non-specific. He's talking to his best friend about fake IDs.
Yeah.
And then like there's the next door girl that he's always had a crush on. She's got this jerky boyfriend. They get in a fight. Taylor Lautner sort of like gets in his face. He passes out in the front lawn with his shirt off. His dad comes and picks him up embarrassed. Then he gets assigned to a school project with her. She comes over, immediately goes, hey, check out this cool website. The website's a phishing scam just for him. Then when he solves the mystery, he goes over to her because she's the only person he trusts, and then they're off. And the movie like never kind of digs into like the what should be, I guess, the fucking like Peter Parker, Mary Jane, I'm the sweet boy who's never had the courage to tell you I've had a crush on you this whole time while you've dated a bunch of jerky guys.
Even after the roller coaster ride starts, there's that love, that romantic relationship doesn't track within itself. I mean, so they spend the night after diving out of the therapist's car. They spend the night in the woods holding each other.
Diving is strong.
Okay.
They hop out.
Yeah, they hop out. They spend the night in the woods on a blanket. As they're sleeping, spooning together, she tells him that he's been crying in his sleep. Then they get on the train, 20 minutes later in the movie, and they get to the cabin and they're like, oh, this is weird. This is awkward, isn't it? Now we're spending time alone. You guys, why is it weird? You slept in the woods spooning each other.
Also, they've known each other since they were 6. Like, it's like this movie has the energy of their dynamic as if she was the new girl at school, and on her first day, she got assigned to his lab partner, and they're getting to know each other in real time. But the movie is actually telling us that they've known each other for fucking 10 plus years and just have never crossed that threshold.
This is the problem, though. Look, like, Sigourney Weaver, when they're in the car, says, like, dump the girl. You don't need that, right? And then that's supposedly that's the rift between them a little bit, as she's like, well, maybe you should have gotten rid of me, like, right. And the answer to that is like, absolutely, he should have gotten rid of you. You provide nothing. You're not helpful, not in a rude way. It's just like, what are you doing here? You're in danger. Like, just go home. You're not involved in this at all. And so, like, what should be binding them together is electrifying chemistry. Like, that should be, well, of course you should go home for your own safety, but I think, I can't resist you. And instead, it's like, they got told by their biology teacher they have to be together, and they're like, okay, right? Like, they're not, there's nothing going on between them.
No.
And she's cute. I love Lily Collins. Emily in Paris.
I think about that fucking scene in the first Raimi Spider-Man movie where he's taking out the garbage and she's walking out of her home with her shitty dad yelling at her. And it's like, that scene is like what you fucking need in a movie like that to just set up immediately all the history. This is the first time that Mary Jane is actually kind of seeing Peter in a different way, that he's sort of starting to show how much he's actually paid attention to her over the years. But it's like, simultaneously establishing the history of these two characters, their adjacent lives, this line that's never gotten crossed, and both of them considering the potential for the future. And it's like, that doesn't take long. That's a 3-minute scene, but this movie doesn't do any of those scenes. Like, the closest thing it does to that is the scene where Jason Isaac trains Taylor Lautner. But it feels like that's the most they invest in setting up any of these relationships. In a movie that's all about who can you trust.
The scene you're talking about, Griffin, like, those are movie stars. Like, I know that at the time, maybe you wouldn't say like, oh, these guys are but though,
but that's why that movie works, because they correctly identified movie stars. They made movie stars. Yes.
The movie, I feel like, attempts to do that in a really ham-handed way when they're at the party. Nathan is at the party, and then all of a sudden Karen shows up with this completely we never meet him boyfriend who is standing next to her, and
the Flash Thompson.
Yeah, the Flash Thompson. She locks eyes with Nathan. There's what is I guess they were trying to generate electricity in that moment, and the boyfriend looks at her like, how I can see that you love this person, and that's really it. That's the only suggestion that Lily is unhappy in her life, that there's something else that only Nathan can fill for her.
Well, this movie also has some oddly stylized zooms, right? Because you consider this is a Bourne ripoff. It's in the wake of those movies being so big and the Greengrass style kind of dominating this type of thriller. And like something like the Taken trilogy is sort of the inept version of that, where it's just 1,000 cuts and these quick zooms in, all of that. But you're sort of getting into like docudrama style, right? This movie has these zoom ins that feel like they're out of fucking Nashville. Like they're these like weird, sort of like pointedly artificial Altman zooms, where one of them is pushing in on Lily Collins as she dramatically rips up the photo of her and her boyfriend in half, that's how you know she doesn't like him anymore. But then she also says to Taylor Lautner, like, I gave you that look at the party because I was hoping you could kick him in the head. And then he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, I live next door to you. I watch you doing that shit with your dad. Which is also just a very bizarre dynamic of just like, okay, we live next door to each other. We don't talk that much. I watch you doing weirdly aggro physical training with your father. I imagined if I gave you the nod, I could perhaps unleash you attack dog style.
I'm reading, look, this is sad, sort of, but like, this is a quote from a Taylor Lautner profile. It took a long time to decide what the first movie outside the franchise was going to be. I wanted it to be special. You go with your passion and what your gut tells you. I mean, the quotes these people are giving is about a different movie. Like Singleton in that piece is like, this is it. This is that first starring role. People don't know what to expect from Taylor. And when they see it, they're going to be like, whoa, I get that you have to sell your movie. There's no way anyone watched the rough cut of Abduction and was like, he's burning up the screen.
Yeah,
I can't believe
no.
this. Like, this Denzel Whitaker plays his pal, right? His friend. Probably know him best for playing young Forrest Whitaker in Black Panther, despite not being related to Forrest Whitaker, despite having the name Whitaker. Anyway, but
he's, by the way, played Forrest Whitaker's son in The Great Debaters, a film directed by Denzel Washington. He is related to neither of them.
Yes. Let me explain the pandemonium that Taylor has. He has like 300 to 400 fans coming out each and every day, showing up with posters, showing him love. The cool thing about him is he loves his fans. He's humble about it. Hollywood hasn't gotten to him. That's the type of dude he is. We like, he's just like, everyone seems to like the guy. Like everyone is giving these quotes that are basically like, he's friendly. He's sweet. Like, he's not being changed by this insanity or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just sort of, it's a bummer that there's absolutely nothing in this movie that I can speak for.
Well, he's kind of boring and he's a bad actor. And whatever. He doesn't work anymore.
But it also, let's point out, there's also this quote for him where he's talking about like what he wants to do in his career, right? And he's saying, like, my dream is to continue to challenge myself in a wide variety of roles and genres. I like having fun with comedy. So, like, Valentine's Day, Funny or Die SNL. He does a fucking Funny or Die video that's a Field of Dreams sequel around this time. He has this little part in Valentine's Day. I remember him being solid on SNL. Like, not great, but, like, he was trying. He was goofy. He was not protective of his image. And that felt like, oh, he's, like, kind of charming when he's not flattening himself out trying to play a movie star, And I feel like that also, to a certain degree, like the Twilight movies become so posy. I mean, we've talked about how like Pattinson and Stewart both get really flattened out as those movies go along. And it took them until after the career to sort of get their mojo back. And it feels like he permanently got kind of, maybe just because he was so young and had done so much less work before it, but so caught up in that mode of just like, it's your angles, it's how to do like the right kind of grimace, like just how to hold your close up. I mean, watching this movie, it feels like his motivation in every scene is be a movie star, as opposed to any sort of trackable psychology of what this character is going through. And the character is admittedly going through a fucking lot. Going through a lot, but reacting to none of it. And the script isn't really
I guess the script is letting him. I don't know. My deep question is if anyone is good in this movie. Like as I said before, like if there's
the good people have nothing to work with.
Yeah,
and
I think Sigourney's the best, and she's got the least to do in a way. Yeah,
like if Pattinson is in this movie. And I don't think Pattinson was even the actor. He's become a better actor. Like it's not like he was absolutely ready to just sort of coast on charm in 2011. I mean, in the Twilight movies, he looks like he wants to die.
Right. Remember Me Pattinson is more compelling than Abduction Lautner.
Is Kristen Stewart better? Yes. Like, is he better?
Yeah.
Yes. Does that make the movie good? No. I mean, it would be a shitty movie.
Dermot Mulroney's lips are in this. Like,
They sure are.
Can we talk about the choice?
What? I recognize them.
Can we talk about the choice of just never revealing? Why would you book Dermot Mulroney as Nathan's father and shoot his lips only, and then not reveal that he is the father?
It's a guy with a distinctive voice and distinctive lips, too.
I recognize his lip. So is it the swagger of a movie that's like, baby, this is part one. Like, get ready for Abduction, Abduction 2, Re-Abduction. Like, get ready. Yeah, we have Mulroney in this for a second because he's, signed for 3 more. Is it like Alita having Edward Norton at the end?
But David, that's the whole point. I would buy that if it was Edward Norton revealed as his father.
I know.
Like, no disrespect to Dermot Mulroney, who's an actor I like a lot, but he is not someone where the audience is going to go, oh shit, if you reveal him.
Okay, but I don't want to be rude to Dermot Mulroney, who we are now bagging on despite we all like his lips. We all like his... But do you think they were like, let's get a big actor? And they called 40 actors who were like, what? No. And then Mulroney was like, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What? It's a day. It's an hour of work. Fine. Like, and maybe I'm in the next one. Okay.
Let's also acknowledge that that thing almost never works. Like when Edward Norton shows up at the end of Alita, people go, who is that? Like, is that Edward Norton? Am I supposed to know who that character is? You don't really recognize him because he looks weird in it. Another example of this is Cillian Murphy being inexplicably in one scene at the beginning of Tron Legacy. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so is he supposed to be the villain in the next one? He's overqualified.
Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts is maybe the best version of that.
And that's a disaster. They shackled themselves to him. Like...
Not only that, you have a good guy giving a good performance the whole fucking movie, and then the twist at the end is now here's a shittier version.
But I mean, the Fantastic Beasts thing is a good call because it's like the confidence that movie has with like, you don't even know. Colin Farrell is A, but we've got an A+ lister, and it's Johnny Depp, and everyone's like, oh no, God, this is like now we're stuck with him. He has to be in like 4 more of these. Is it Mickelson is doing it now?
Correct.
The look is so bad. Yeah.
The look is so bad. I think we made the joke that it looks like he was given 5 minutes to rummage around in a costume bin before filming. And he's like, one eye is weird, earring.
I mean, the Alita thing is a good one because, like, my wife loves Edward Norton. Like, anything, and that's all she leaves the movie. It was like, why was Edward Norton there? What's he doing? Why will there be more Edward Norton? Why was there not more Edward Norton?
It always just ends up either feeling like a tease or being distracting and confusing.
Abduction. This is a bad movie. We are out of things to talk about with Abduction.
Yeah, it's a terrible
right? Like,
yes.
Yeah,
like, is there
literally anything else?
It's really terrible. I just wanted to call out a few fun things. It's absolutely superfluous now to just bag on plot holes, but I feel that I must. I love the fact that the way that Nathan confirms that he is that child is he finds the exact shirt he was wearing on the day he was abducted in his basement. Kevin and Mara kept it for some reason. They didn't destroy
Throw it away.
It's got the same stain that's visible on it. I love that. I love the fact that when he's fighting the assassin on the train, as the guy's got his hands around his throat, Nathan then hears his father's voice. You got to dig deep. You got to come on now. You can do this. And he's what he's doing in that moment is calling back to the times that his father would beat his ass in the front yard. Like that's the inspiration he's calling on.
Well, and also, like, not to fucking compare a better version of this movie in a way again, but like Hannah spends so much fucking time with Eric Bana in isolation training this girl, right? Like, it gives you a lot of time to really build that relationship, the question of like, who is she? Why is she so shielded from the world? And really selling you that once shit hits the wall, she knows how to cope for herself. You believe that Saoirse Ronan can fight all these fucking people because you've seen the degree to which she's trained. Whereas this is just like, I don't know, the level of training Jason Isaacs does for Taylor Lautner in this movie reminds me of my dad trying to teach me how to toughen up because kids were mean to me at school.
Come on, hit me here and then here.
Right, like this was like shit my dad would make me do to be like, you should know how to box. And I was just like, I don't know, please let me watch cartoons.
Casting Isaacs and having him just have that material, again, speaks to like a Hitchcock movie that's not there, where there's 40 minutes of like, what's up with my dad? Jason Isaacs has a creepy vibe. Like, no offense to Jason Isaacs. He's good at playing that, like, do I trust this guy? You know, like, he's good at that. And instead, no, forget it.
Don't tell me that he's actually good and then kill him immediately. And then have a movie left, an hour left.
I mean, yeah, like, it's the biggest... This movie would be completely... We would never speak of it had Singleton not made it.
Yes.
No.
Correct.
It's one of the most anonymous movies we've ever covered on this show.
It would be like, you know, what is the knockoff version of Mark Wahlberg's Sniper? It's like that kind of action movie, but like the C-level version of that B-level, B-minus.
Right, exactly, like of an action movie that you barely remember.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we've gone through in the obviously the Luke Cage movie, like the many movies that like Singleton was attached to, like the A-Team.
The one that JJ dug up that I'd forgotten about. He was at one point supposed to direct Wheelman. Because Singleton was considering several video game adaptations. He almost did, what's the Snoop Dogg one called?
The Fear and Respect is the Snoop Dogg one, yes.
But he almost did Wheelman, which was Vin Diesel's video game when Vin Diesel wanted to become a multimedia artist.
Which, of course, he became.
Right, which was supposed to be a proof of concept for a movie and never happened, but the game's fun.
Right.
What's up with the Wheelman?
Oh, it rules. He's a fucking cool guy and he drives cars. Vin Diesel had the idea in 2009.
He was like a tire mutant or something.
He was like, what if I made a franchise about me driving cars? But I just looking at JJ pull up some more specifics here. The Singleton files the $20 million lawsuit against Paramount in 2011, right? The same time, the same year that this movie comes out, rather. And then Paramount countersued. He claimed that they reneged on the deals by adding extra conditions that made his terms impossible to fulfill. And it became what the Hollywood Reporter called the chicken or the egg controversy, which was, did Singleton have to complete 2 films to get Paramount's distribution guarantee, or did Paramount have to guarantee distribution to get Singleton to complete the 2 films?
What a stupid industry.
Right. It's like fucking Brazil Harry Tuttle bullshit that they caught him up with. And he claims that the 2 things he was supposed to do were that he was supposed to produce, rather, to fill the deal, aside from all the movies they didn't let him direct, were a Tracy Morgan concert film directed by Spike Lee and a D. Ray Davis movie, which would have been him doing another sort of mentoring a young filmmaker. And they ended up settling it the following year, rather, for less than $20 million. But I think I've talked about it in several episodes, but Shane Salerno wrote a really interesting obituary for him on Deadline when he passed away, and he talked about how he just kind of got so fucking pissed off at the industry after that. He bought a boat. He loved the water and was like, I don't know, man, I just want to sail around.
I forgot about there's one other project, the Tupac movie. I think that's the one that really broke him, because obviously he knew Tupac.
Yeah.
Like Tupac was in his movies. He was attached to make the Tupac movie, and like whatever was forced out because of creative differences, and like got on Instagram and was like, people don't take him seriously. You know, they're trying to fuck up his legacy. You know, like and like John Singleton making a Tupac movie seems like a slam dunk. It's pretty weird. And like, of course, that movie, Carl Franklin got signed, and then Benny Boom made that movie that is god awful and still made money because people were just like, there's a Tupac movie? Like, I want to see that. Like, remember when that movie, they didn't screen it for critics, they like dumped it in theaters, and it like made like $50 million because people were like, cool, like there's a Tupac movie. And like, imagine if Singleton had gotten to do that before he died, at least.
I'm going to get the numbers wrong here, but I remember being with you getting bagels after recording a podcast episode on like a Friday or a Saturday morning, right? And I pulled up Deadline and I went like, the Tupac movie made $20 million opening day? And you and I were like, is this thing a blockbuster? And then it made like $30 million for the weekend.
Right. It dropped off fast, but people, showed up for,
Yeah. I mean, for the worst execution of that, right? And then after this, he does his 30 for 30 episode, which is not much loved, but he does his episode of People versus OJ, which is arguably the best, I think, of that series. And then that gets him back in the FX fold. He sets up Snowfall, and he was pushed off of Snowfall within the first season. He was fired off of that show before he passed away.
Is that true? It's interesting.
Yes.
I mean, Snowfall's still on, right? Do you guys has anyone seen Snowfall? Jason, have you seen?
I have not watched
It's
it, but
one of the, people talk about it. People are like, "Oh, Snowfall kind of got good." Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it apart from that it's set in LA and the crack epidemic. Like, that's I just know it's sort of a broadly historical show. That's all I know.
I'm trying to find the timeline on this because I feel like people often talk about now, like, well, he had set up Snowfall. If he had still lived, he still would have been doing Snowfall. But I vividly remember the Deadline story that was like, there's a new showrunner now.
He directed the finale of season 2, though. So he at least...
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. He was involved until he died, basically.
Maybe he was just deprived. He was, I don't know. I think he had more control over it and at some point pushed back. Maybe it was after season 2. I'm going to find this while we talk about other shit.
But yeah, that's it. Jason, I didn't even ask you, like, Singleton in general. Are you a fan? Like, how do you feel about his other movies?
I am a big fan of John Singleton. I mean, obviously Boys in the Hood is that's an iconic, legitimately an iconic film that's important to me. It's important to many people. And it's kind of a touchstone in cinematic history for people our age, and it's a shame. It's a shame that this is his last movie. Too Fast, Too Furious. I like it. It's not that Four Brothers. I had fun with. I like his movies.
He's got this 2-chunk career. It's like, his first chunk is these serious movies that are all at least interesting, and some of them are fantastic. And then the second half is Shaft.
Shaft, I saw in the theater. I liked it.
Yeah, Shaft, Too Fast, Too Furious, Four Brothers, like where it's like, yeah, he's making genre movies, he's making action movies, he's good. Four Brothers has good action. Like, Too Fast has good action. The action in this stinks. I don't know if it's a Taylor Lautner problem. I don't know if it's a budget problem. I don't know if it's a prep problem. But like, the action in this is pretty, like, I mean, your eye just slides off the screen. It's just that kind of a movie where you're just like, what else is going on?
Yeah, Griffin said inert earlier, and that is the case. There is, I have no idea what happened. None of us do, but it really feels like one of those situations where there was just simply too many voices. Like, obviously one of the big goals of this movie was to launch Taylor Lautner as a film star. I'm sure John Singleton came into this with some other ambitions that he wanted to do. It seemed like the studio was hinging their economic future on the success of this movie. There was just a lot of masters that this film was trying to serve, and it ended up serving all of them extremely poorly.
It also feels like this movie doesn't want to make a single specific choice. And a thing to consider is, here's John Singleton. He's had this bizarre career arc, right? He's still a fucking young dude. He makes Too Fast, Too Furious, which is kind of like roundly mocked by everyone. Shaft, which is supposed to start a franchise and doesn't, right? Then Four Brothers, which is supposed to get a sequel and doesn't, but was sort of seen as something of a comeback for him. And then, the hustle and flow thing gave him this boost.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
he's just stuck sitting on
Yeah.
a bench for 5 years. I think it was so fucking frustrating for him that this was truly just like a movie to get made, to get himself back out there, because it truly is in this stupid fucking industry. Like,
It's
if people,
an idiotic industry.
it's the, what have you done lately shit, where like if you just haven't worked in a little while, people assume that something must be wrong. And I think he felt like he needed to break the curse in some way.
And clearly, listen, you mentioned Carl Franklin earlier. Carl Franklin,
Great director.
Carl Franklin, one false move is as taut and as knife's edge,
So good.
a thriller as you can come up with.
Mhm.
And that's a guy who basically, other than Devil in a Blue Dress, which came out kind of after that, really just kind of like dropped off the map in terms of like an awareness of his films. So I would imagine being a black director in Hollywood is somehow mixed in this formula, because the idea that John Singleton would ever struggle in his career after coming out of the gates the way he did is really honestly kind of crazy.
Yeah, look, here's another thing that must have been infuriating to Singleton. This movie comes out in 2011. It's the same year as Fast Five.
Yeah.
Right? He's watching this franchise that people say he killed now becoming like the franchise. And not only that, but like Fast Five is the one where they're reintegrating the characters that he developed, the actors that he cast. The franchise is starting to come back around and start to reintegrate some of the cartoonishness that he was the first to put in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I think that must be super fucking frustrating to him. I think he's seeing all these guys that he launched who are still working at like a big level, right? And I don't know. I mean, you talk about like the Carl Franklin thing. Carl Franklin had, this big indie movie, right? And then he had this like good fucking movie star thriller. But Singleton came out the gate with like a fucking culture-defining movie.
Yes.
He's getting reported on MTV News. He's like a youth icon.
Yes.
He's box office and he's fucking awards and he's all this shit. He never was going to be able to fly under the radar. And I think to some degree, he probably felt the weight of being John Singleton, everything needing to be a John Singleton movie. And he talked about how he wanted to make junkier movies and thrillers and shit because he didn't want to be boxed in. He wanted to make sci-fi movies. He wanted to make comic book movies. He wanted to do all this different sort of shit. And then he got stuck in this fucking rut. I want to correct myself here. The Snowfall thing, which I remembered, is they shot the pilot, which Singleton directed and wrote, and then FX, before picking up the show, demanded reshoots, rewrites, and cast changes, and he was not rewriting or directing the reshoots. So in my mind, I was like, oh, he was pushed off the show, but then he stayed on it. I think he had all controlling power at the beginning and then became one of the people. Billy Magnuson was one of the people he cast at the beginning who was then recast.
Dumb. Billy Magnuson's good. Right.
Yeah. But I don't know. The whole the Singleton thing is odd. I mean, this is a thing.
I mean, if people don't remember, he was 51 years old when he died. He's 40, whatever. He's in his early 40s when he makes this movie. Like some people, that would be the first time they get to direct. They'd be in their 40s. Like,
There's 8 years in between this movie and his death.
And there's like a lot of time wasting. Yeah, I know.
Right, that's a bummer. And look, the Shane Salerno thing, he talks about how he just like loved the ocean, got in his boat all the day, read comic books, went and would go see movies with his friends. And the last couple of years, he was feeling a little bit energized rather. And he was starting to reach out, and we've seen reports of this, of shit with like him reaching out to Tyrese and Taraji and saying like maybe it's time for some kind of follow-up. He was starting to kind of poke at things a little bit. It feels like inevitably there would have been some second win for him. David.
Yeah.
Did you see this thread posted on our Reddit by, full credit here, a user named We Gotta Go Fast 1138, which is a good username?
No, or if I did, what's the thread?
The thread is, and this is a really kind of heavy thing to consider, okay? The thread is what every blank check director's last film would have been if they passed at John Singleton's age. So this is to consider in terms of how young he was and the fact that he started so goddamn young that he got this many films made, okay? Here is every director we've covered and how their career would have ended if they died at John Singleton's age. M. Night Shyamalan, old.
Wow.
Rip.
Wow.
The Wachowskis, Jupiter Ascending.
Sure.
Cameron Crowe, Elizabethtown.
Ouch.
James Cameron, Aliens of the Deep. Steven Spielberg, Amistad. Nolan, Tenet. Catherine Bigelow, K-19, The Widowmaker. So there's your first example of someone who makes their definitive movie after the age.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop.
Damn.
Yeah.
He was Singleton's death age when he made his first American movie.
Right.
James L. Brooks, Broadcast News.
Wow.
Brad Bird, Ratatouille. Ang Lee, Brokeback Mountain. Nancy Meyers, What Women Want, her second movie.
Wow.
Tim Burton, Corpse Bride. Oh, well, that's kind of depressing to consider. Michael Mann, Last of the Mohicans.
Wow.
Yeah, he was old. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, he got started late, obviously.
Hayao Miyazaki, Porco Rosso.
Wow.
Demi, Philadelphia. George Miller, Lorenzo's Oil. Nora Ephron, This Is My Life, her first movie. Gina Prince Bythewood is now the same age as Singleton when he died, the old guard. Zemeckis, Castaway. Musker Clemens, Treasure Planet. Elaine May, Mikey and Nicky.
Wow.
Look, he died too young.
It's a mindfuck.
You know,
It's a
obviously. He was
Yeah.
51 years old.
Yeah. David.
Yeah.
David.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard the good news.
So,
The movies are back.
the movies, we love them. They're back.
The movies are back. Nobody makes a comeback like the movies.
Okay. That's great to hear.
Except for maybe, can I offer one addendum here? The movies. Maybe the movies make an even better comeback than the movies.
The movies.
The movies.
Well, look, this episode is brought to you by Movie.
As many are.
As you might know, is a curated streaming service that shows exceptional films from around the globe. Every day they premiere a new film. They've got iconic directors. They've got emerging auteurs. They've got hand-selected stuff. It's a personal film festival. It's great. But look, this is my favorite time of the week. Just firing up Movie and looking at what they got.
Look, these are fun ad reads to do because, as you said, we just open up a window and look through it and go, oh, wow, that one, this one. I can't wait. I've never seen. I want to watch again. They got a whole Christian Petzold series here. I just last week saw Undine, his new film, and I texted you, David, and I said, I think he has to be one of my 5 favorite filmmakers working today. And then both of us were lamenting the fact that we haven't seen enough of his early films. Well, guess what? They're all here.
They've got, right now, they've got a great 3-film series from the filmmaker Stephen Cohn.
The great
who I
Stephen
like a
Cohn.
lot.
Yeah, Chicago filmmaker.
Henry Gamble's Birthday Party, The Wise Kids, and Princess Sid. Princess Sid, one of the best movies of that year. That's all on there. What else do they got? Let's see.
Here's one. Like, this is just the variety of stuff that's on Movie, right? They got a really robust shorts selection as well. And you got, like, documentary shorts. You have foreign shorts. You have avant-garde shorts. But then you also just have Popeye the Sailor meets Sinbad the Sailor.
Hey, crossover.
The Fleischer Brothers short, which is maybe one of my favorite short cartoons ever. It rules. And there's a whole, also, we should mention, there's what they're calling their Pride Unprejudiced LGBTQ plus cinema festival going on right now. A lot of good movies in there.
This is tough because there's a lot of movies that are about to. I'm realizing, we're coming up on July, and
this is
my
the bad
favorite
part
time
of
the
doing a
month,
movie ad read. This is
I
the only
know.
bad part is going, oh boy, how am I going to fit these all in here?
Do you do that? I go to some of my services, the Criterions, the movies
Yep.
of the world, and I'm like, all right, what's going? Like,
Yeah.
what do I have a month to watch? Like, where's the clock ticking on?
Look, but David, I'll say this. When one door closes at a movie, another door opens. And there's always new stuff being added. So even if you don't get to certain films in time, any week you log on, there you're going to see some things that make you go, wow.
listen, I do have to point out that you should try Movie Free for 30 days at movie.com/check. That's MUBI.com/check. You get a whole month of great cinema for free. They have a great podcast you should be listening to. We've talked about on past episodes, which is, I can't get into all the details right now, but it's called The Movie Podcast. They're doing deep dives into movies like Paul Verhoeven's Turkish Delight.
Yeah, movies that were huge successes in one country but didn't cross over. Yes.
So, Movie, we love them. They're great. Never leave Movie.
No, and nobody makes a comeback like the movies.
Griffin, let's play the box office
Let's
game.
play the box office
for
game.
for Abduction. Jason,
Wait, you don't want to talk about the plot or to revisit anything else in the movie
Shut up, Ben.
Abduction?
Jason, this movie came out September 23rd, 2011, and I'm gonna Griff's gonna try and guess the top 5 at the box office this week. Abduction opened number 4, which is not great because there are 4 movies opening this week.
Yeah.
And it's not the highest opener. It opened to $10.9 million. It grossed 28 domestic.
Yeah.
86 worldwide. Yeah, when they say 96, they're including video sales.
Oh boy.
It was not a hit. The movie did not.
But it was not an egregious flop.
No.
Because it did not cost that much.
Right.
Exactly. Yes, it was cheap to make.
But
yeah.
also, that's very telling if they're including video sales to juice up their total and it still wasn't 100 million.
Still doesn't hit 100.
Yeah.
Number 1, though, at the box office is a movie that came out 902 weeks ago.
David.
That's 15 years. Yes?
It's a re-release?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
of a famous movie.
Is it the 3D Lion King?
It's the 3D Lion King. $21 million.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and this is its second weekend?
It's its second weekend. It came out the weekend before. People went to see that shit. I didn't see that shit.
Look, David, people
No
like
offense.
people like to clown on old Griffey Nooms, but when I predicted that the fucking Jon Favreau Lion King would be the highest grossing film in history, it was largely
prediction by
because I was, but I just want to say the data that was heavily factoring into my prediction was this was like a bizarrely successful re-release. It made another $90 million.
People love the Lion King. They love that Lion King. That one's good.
And also, it exploded overseas, the 3D re-release, in a lot of territories where movie-going had not been as big in the 90s.
Griffin, here's the thing. The shitty, awful Lion King remake that looks like shit made $1.6 billion.
Yes, right.
It did great.
Right, so you can say dumb prediction, Griff, but that's how much money that movie fucking made.
You were saying it was going to do better than Avatar. Look,
I want to remind you that I made that prediction before there was a single image release.
I know.
My prediction only looked foolish when we knew the movie would look like a bowl of farts, and we didn't know that at the time. It was a no guts, no glory prediction.
Yeah.
Lion King 3D, huge hit.
Lion King 3D. Okay, so number 2
Disney
is
started re-releasing all the other things in 3D, and no one went to any of them other than me.
No one cared. Right.
Yeah.
The Phantom Menace 3D. I saw that.
Yeah.
Number 2 is new this week. Is a great movie that has only, I feel like, grown as like a cable classic, as sort of an art movie classic. It's a sports film. It's a Best Picture nominee. It's kind of like, there's nothing like this movie. There are no sports movies. It's Moneyball.
Oh, wow.
I mean, one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. Yeah.
Like, how many sports movies that like could also play on fucking TNT and play at the Metrograph and like be an Academy Award nominated? You know what I mean? Like,
I think that movie is a fucking masterpiece. And my 3 least favorite subjects in the world are sports, numbers, and money.
Jason, Moneyball. Do you like Moneyball?
I love Moneyball. I think it's a great film. I think it does something really magical, which is make something that is so fucking boring, numbers and baseball, into a, that kind of everything about this is wrong kind of
triumphant, underdog,
rationality.
It's both emotional and cinematic, and you hear the stories about like the version that Soderbergh was trying to do, and it was like this and like bananas, like there's a cartoon Clippy on screen breaking things down,
and like David Justice plays himself, all the stuff like that.
Right, like it would have been like The Laundromat, a movie only I like, right? And then somehow fucking Bennett Miller figured out a way to make this thing work as like kind of a classic 70s new Hollywood movie.
So good. So Moneyball, opening big, doing well,
Yeah.
kicking Abduction's ass,
Yeah.
opening to $20 million.
Still, I mean, still getting whooped a little by Simba, but sure.
Yes, it's true. Not knocking off Simba. Number 3 is an inspirational movie. Animal movie. Also new this week. Also
Fuck.
kicking Abduction's ass.
It's a live action animal movie?
Mm-hmm.
It's not Dolphin Tale, is it?
It is Dolphin Tale.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Dolphin Tale was a fucking sleeper because it's opening number 3 and it goes all the way to $100 million.
Right. It was one of those word of mouth, inspirational. Yeah.
Word of
Connick
tale.
Jr., Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman's got a hat on the poster
David, I said
and a bow tie.
I said word of tail.
Word of yeah, thank you. Right. So the dolphin doesn't have a tail, right? That's what it's about. Like they give him
Right.
like
They have to build a robot tail for the dolphin so he can go back in the water. And then Dolphin Tale 2, he falls in love with a different dolphin, I think. Charles Martin Smith directed those movies.
right. The guy from The Untouchables, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right. Number 4 is Abduction. Number 5, also new this week. Whoever decided to open this against Abduction, idiotic. Another action movie that no one remembers. What can I tell you about this movie? It stars a multiple Oscar winner.
Whoa. Is it The Gunman?
No.
That's a good
it
guess, though.
stars,
Come on, you gotta give me credit.
It's that kind of movie. It's that kind of movie.
So it's
like,
a post-Neeson, should we get other highbrow actors to be in an action movie?
no, it's 3 actors.
Fuck.
It's like action
Oh.
star,
Oh.
Oscar
Oh.
winner, and then kind of in between. Yes?
Hold on. I'm gonna be able to name the 3 actors before I remember the title of the film.
Okay, please.
This is the one that has like De Niro,
Yes.
Statham,
Yes.
and then the third guy. Fuck.
He's like a not James Bond. Like he's like a,
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen. Yes. Yeah.
And it's not called like Hunt to Kill, right?
No, although the tagline is "May the best man live." So my guess is
Right.
they're against each other. I don't know.
Fuck.
The movie is called Killer Elite.
Oh, Killer Elite.
Right.
Yeah.
Killer Elite.
Right.
Jason, have you seen Killer Elite? I have not
I've
seen Killer
I've
Elite.
seen a few minutes on Killer Elite. I believe Killer Elite is streaming on Amazon Prime. I might be wrong about that, but
everything you just said sounds right. You've seen
Okay.
a few minutes, it's streaming on something, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Look, Killer Elite. When a
Elite.
mentor is taken captive by a disgraced Arab sheikh, a killer for hire is forced into action to kill. This sounds convoluted. He has to kill 3 members of the SAS responsible for the death of his sons. I don't get it. So there's a 4th guy too. Dominic Purcell is in this movie. Old potato head from Prison Break. Everyone knows.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This movie is also written based on a novel called The Featherman, written by Sir Ranulph Fiennes,
Yes.
who, in
yes.
addition to being cousins to Rafe and Joseph Fiennes, also in 1984 was crowned by the Guinness Book of World Records the world's greatest explorer.
what?
Yeah, if you grew up in Britain, you know who Ranulph Fiennes is. He's an explorer. The man explores. He's fucking gone all over the world.
He
He's one of those
holds
guys. He's
the
like the oldest
record.
guy. I think he's the oldest guy to climb Everest or
Yes.
one of those things. Like
Entirely
Wow.
on foot. He was the first
Yeah.
one. Is that right? Yes, he's the first to completely cross Antarctica on foot.
Why would you do that? That sounds so boring.
And then he climbed Mount Everest at 65. And then he sold off the rights to his book so they could make Killer Elite based on a true story.
Let me read this incredible factoid for you from the Wikipedia of The Feathermen, the novel, number 1 bestseller written by Ranulph Fiennes. Plot. Here's the short thing about the plot. The book tells the story of 4 British Army soldiers, including 2 members of the SAS, who were assassinated by a hit squad known as the Clinic. The murders are carried out over a 70-year period on the orders of a Dubai sheikh, whose 3 sons were killed by British forces in Oman during a battle with the communist guerrillas. Here's the great part. Ranulph Fiennes claimed that he himself was targeted by the group, the Clinic, but was saved by a group of vigilantes calling themselves the Feathermen. This novel, written by Ranulph Fiennes, based on a true story.
How does that get turned into this fucking movie? Sir Ranulph Fiennes. Also, I kind of can't get over being crowned by Guinness the world record for something that is arguably an opinion. It's not. He is the most. He is officially the world's greatest explorer.
I'll say this about Ranulph Fiennes and his and admittedly, I have not looked into the claims that he is the world's greatest explorer. But I'll just say that I feel like if nothing is named after you, how can you be the best? You know what I mean? Colonialism was terrible. The age of European expansion throughout the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries.
Right. People
terrible.
Walking around being like, this is my mountain. It's called
totally
Mount David.
awful.
Yeah,
but they did go there and they got stuff named after them.
Yes.
And after that, there was not that much else to find. Ranulph Fiennes.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he could be maybe greatest living but no, come on. No, I don't think so. Also, when you're the third most famous Fiennes, do you think he's second? Do you think he beats out Joseph?
Well, now
where's Joseph these days?
There's even Hero Tiffin Fiennes now.
That's true. I believe it's Fiennes Tiffin, but yes.
Okay, fine.
You mentioned that he climbed Everest. Again, there is another mountain not named after him that he climbed.
Yeah,
that's true. How good could he possibly have been?
Maybe he has some little mountain. We don't know. He probably doesn't. Is he still? He's still alive at 77 years old.
Amazing.
I just feel like Joseph maybe has him. Isn't Joseph Fiennes in
He's on the
Handmaid's Tale or
so
whatever?
Now he's leaped ahead again now.
You think that after a while he was down, but then he was like, I got this Hulu show.
Right.
It's got some real energy.
Around Running with Scissors, Ranulph was running circles around Joseph. When they were doing the canceled Michael Jackson TV episode, Ranulph had Joseph beat, but now I think Joseph's pulled ahead again.
I forgot about the Michael. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, can we remind people that existed? There was an announced episode of a British TV show that was going
Urban Myths, I believe it was called. Yes,
right. That was about Marlon Brando, Elizabeth Taylor, and Michael Jackson all getting in a car together after 9/11. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And
it sounds worse.
Joseph Fiennes was playing Michael Jackson. I want to say Stockard Channing was playing Elizabeth Taylor.
Correct. And Brian Cox is Marlon Brando, which sounds good.
And it was produced and then never, ever, ever shown. They finished filming it and people protested every single element of it.
I have to do this now. I have to make it my background. One second. I have to, because I forgot that an image leaked out of Joseph Fiennes as late Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that's correct. Who could forget when that leaked on the internet?
Oh my God. Viral. It's so much worse than I remember it being.
It's truly, truly terrible.
I mean, when you're going to look like that, why even be in it? You don't look like Joseph Fiennes anymore. Like, anyone could look like that.
He looks like Pinocchio.
You're right.
It's so bizarre. Ugh.
Griff, I think we're done. The only other thing is, Griff, do you have a Singleton ranking? It's only 9 movies, but do you have your Singleton list?
Oh, fuck. I didn't prepare.
It's the end of Singleton.
I can do it off the dome.
I did find something that was named after Fiennes.
Oh, great.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I just sent it into the chat. You can take a look.
Let me see. Sent it into the chat. Sir Ranulph Fiennes on the adventures that inspired his rum.
So there you go.
Okay.
Oh, so Ranulph Fiennes' Great British Rum.
That's the name.
What it's called. Oh man, and on the rum bottle, it's like him going across the Antarctica. He's all furred up.
This I don't know. It feels like as good a time as any to announce my new product launch. Griffin Newman's Good American Beer.
Not great.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's okay.
It's fine.
Look, God, I'd love to have a liquor. Jason, you should get a liquor. You should
I
get
would
like a
love to get one.
branded.
I'm not at that level yet, but I think it's an aspiration, and it's certainly one that that I think all of us share.
Have you considered a vape flavor?
Sure, at least a vape.
A vape flavor.
like
Yeah, that could be fun. I think I prefer flower. I think I've read several conflicting things about how healthy vape fluid is for you. I wouldn't want to poison people, but I'd be open to it if the number was right.
Blank Check could have a small batch ale.
I just will the promo shoot you do where you like buy a big like sill, and you're talking to some old guy and he's like, yeah, that's where we put the barley.
I want us to have like a fucking Casamigos photo where the three of us are on 3 motorcycles side by side with sunglasses.
Anyway,
handing each other briefcases full of money. Okay. Well, what a great talk we've had here.
Jason, thank you so. I mean, we're gonna.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, I mean, you've been requested as a guest, one of the most requested guests for this show for years. And when we settled on doing Singleton and we saw this one, we were like, that feels like a good way to make that episode worth listening to. That was our thought. And you have succeeded on that front.
It's a magical movie. And listen, if people want to sit and watch a 90-minute movie that is completely unexciting and indeed often baffling, check it out. The Taylor Lautner vehicle, Abduction, 2011. R.I.P. John Singleton.
Rip.
Rip. Unfortunately, Jason, is there anything you want to plug?
Listen to Takeline on Crooked Media. It comes out every Tuesday. Watch All Caps NBA on the Takeline YouTube channel. That comes out every Friday. That's it. Be good to each other out there.
Well, that's a huge plug. Be good to each other. And also, if you want to be good to yourself, remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Blank Check on all, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us at Blank Check Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media. Thank you to Alex Barron and AJ McKeon for our editing. Leigh Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song. Thank you to JJ Birch and Nick Floriano for research. You can go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit and go to our Shopify page for some real nerdy merch and go over to the Blank Check Patreon, patreon.com/Blank Check, where we do Blank Check special features, franchise commentaries, finishing up our hot tay summer with the Twilights. Will we have announced what's next at this point, or is that still a surprise?
No, we're not. So we're in the middle of the Breaking Dawns right now.
I think people will be very, very happy with that. But the last two, especially the last Breaking Dawn episode, I think is really, really good. Now we should throw out, because the schedule is going to be a little interesting for the next couple of weeks, because John Carpenter, our March Madness winner, will be our mini series for the fall. It's going to be a fucking barn burner. We got great guests lined up, and obviously just a killer selection of movies. But
those are great.
But there are a couple new release films coming out in July that we need to cover because of past episodes. And because of that, we need to do 2 episodes to fill the gap between our new releases. So we just say everything we're doing right now?
Sure, these are our plans. We're doing another... Well, go ahead.
Okay, first up, July 11th. It's been a while.
It has been a while since a Ben's choice.
So it's time for another one. And Ben, of course, picked a movie that David immediately identified is not just a Ben's choice, but is perhaps a Hosley manifesto.
That's right. We're doing a classic film, a film I love, called Joe Dirt.
Joseph Dirt. Joseph Dirt.
Yes, we love him.
And then on July 18th, a long-promised episode we're finally getting to. Last summer, Tom Sharpling donated thousands of dollars to charity.
Good on him.
Good on him for the fundraisers we did on the George Lucas talk show. And he often would ask for some sort of prize or punishment in exchange for the money he donated, such as making me drop a pastrami sandwich off of my fire escape. But one time what he asked for was a second reckoning with a film that perhaps we did not investigate thoroughly enough in one episode alone. So we are going back to the well and doing another episode on the Martin Short movie Clifford.
Yeah.
It is David's
a former Ben's choice.
Thrilled about this. It is Clifford 2 Hyper Clifford, a sequel to our first episode about Clifford.
So that's next after Joe Dirt. That's right. And then there are 2 new movies to talk about. Space Jam: A New Legacy, which looks great.
Yep, it looks perfect.
Doesn't look like there's anything fucked up about that movie.
No, absolutely not. The cinema is still alive. The movies are back. Right. Space Jam: A New Legacy. My brother James E. Newman coming back for that one. And then August 1st, we're talking Shyamalan. We're talking old. Marie Barty is going to make her first main feed appearance on the show.
Yep. And then Carpenter.
Then we'll start Carpenter, and Hotel Transylvania 4 got pushed back, so that will happen mid-Carpenter.
Of course.
I'm so excited for Carpenter, you guys. That's going to be so
It's going to be fucking
be
fun. It's going to be
great, Jason.
It's going to be fun. And look, Singleton's been a fun journey. I'll say it's weird because we usually record episodes months and months and months in advance, right? And we were banking up an absurd amount of episodes in advance of you and your wife having a child, David.
True.
And then during your paternity leave, I started dealing with health issues, and our getting back into recording schedule was slow and very gradual. And so this has been a very drawn out record. We've spent like 6 months with Singleton in our brains. Because
9 movies. Yeah.
Right. We kind of recorded all of Musker and Clements and May and the first half of Singleton within like a month. And then the rest of the Singleton episodes were very spread out. But it's been a very interesting sort of like time to immerse ourselves in, and sort of this kind of last hoorah in a way for like, I don't know, real auteur careers within the studio system. And it's sort of, I don't know. Obviously, there's the X factor of him dying so young, but it does kind of presage, I feel like, what happened to the industry in general. And with that, shall we do our quick Singleton rankings, David?
It's easy. I'll run it down for you right now.
Yeah.
Boys in the Hood, number 1. Rosewood, number 2. Great movie. Baby Boy, number 3. Those 2 are kind of close for me. Both like very interesting, very good, not totally, perfect movies. Then I have Poetic Justice at 4 and Too Fast at 5. Four Brothers at 6, and then Shaft, Higher Learning, Abduction are fairly clear 7, 8, and 9 for me. You're probably different, Griff. You like Higher Learning more than me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the bananas thing I'm going to do. Number 1 is Boys in the Hood. My number 2 favorite is Higher Learning. I'm a lunatic.
That's crazy.
Arrest me,
that's weird.
Send me to jail.
That's weird.
Okay. Higher Learning number 2, then I would go, I think I go Baby Boy and then Rosewood, but those are pretty much split for me. I obviously want to acknowledge that Higher Learning is a more inherently flawed movie than Rosewood or Baby Boy, but I love it, and it kind of, for me, is like the purest kind of uncut Singleton movie. Then I go, Then I go Too Fast, then I go Shaft, then I go Four Brothers, then I go Abduction.
Yeah, Four Brothers low. Four Brothers is fun.
I like them all other than Abduction.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
they're enjoyable movies to watch. Yeah.
All right. That's it. Goodbye, John.
That's been our episode. Goodbye, John. It's been nice spending some time with you. And
Thank
as
you again,
always,
Jason.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Truly our honor. And we'll have you on again sometime soon.
Yeah, man.
And just because I want to end Singleton on a somewhat positive note, since this is such a downer, shitty movie for his career to end on, I want to just list some accolades that Abduction received. So, and as always, as clearly outlined on the Abduction Wikipedia page, Abduction was nominated for a Golden Reel Award for dialogue and ADR in a feature film. Okay, you say, perhaps that's not that great of an award. Most unnoticeable ADR. Well, hold your horses. It did win the Teen Choice Award for Choice Movie and Choice Movie Actor.
Jesus.
In the genre of action. It
That's
was
some
nominated,
right there.
nominated for, but didn't win Worst Actor Taylor Lautner
Sandler.
split.
Sandler
with
beat him out.
Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1, right? Sandler bodied him for Jack and Jill. And my final note for the John Singleton miniseries, I do want people to know that it didn't win, but Abduction was nominated at the Golden Trailer Awards Best Standee for a Feature Film.